Okay, here we go. Stream activated. Stream activated. And it, and it, and it, and it. Okay. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Oh man, I am having like the most emotional moment ever. I got crazy burned, as you can see, and oh, this is going to be nice to say for just the people who are going to watch the recording. Nobody's going to see this live. It's good because nobody's in yet. But just like, what an emotional day. I went to an ODSP, which is our disability system here in Ontario. I went to an ODSP. Hey, John, how you doing, bud? I'm just describing like my day. What a day, dude. What a day I've had. I went to an ODSP, which is a disability rally, right? Here in Canada, we are paying, like, we pay less to disability services than the United States does. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, these people can't pay rent, and our response to them of, like, just get a job, and, like, oh, we're going to do job training, and we'll get you jobs, and we'll make accessible jobs. Like, these people are not going to get jobs. Like, it's just not going to happen. And our treatment of them is absolutely abhorrent. Yeah, and you get kicked off when you get a job, right? Like, it's the stupidest possible system. One would assume that a system for disability would be like, no, you're disabled. Like, we need to like, if you're disabled and everybody looks at you and you're like, yeah, you're disabled. Like, I spoke today to a lady who was wheelchair bound and blind, right? Like, oh, go get a job. Yeah, go F yourself, dude. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, there's, today more than anything else has really revealed to me that we are like a nation of babies. And I don't mean like children. I mean like babies. Like, we live in like a fairy tale, like Santa Claus is real kind of state of mind at all times. And that, like, everybody I've listened to up until today who has spoken out, like, against ODSP or any of this kind of stuff, or is like, you just need to toughen up and straighten up. They're just a baby that never grew up. Really. They're just walking around saying the dumbest possible stuff that you can imagine. Yeah, it's class warfare. It totally is. You bought it today at that price? Yeah, Sammy, you're absolutely right. I don't know if I've seen you in here, bud, but thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. Good to see you. It's hopefully we're gonna have a good stream today. I'm gonna hold off on going through commentary and stuff until we're a couple minutes in. Hang around though, and hey, if you hang around long enough, you get to see a pug. You get to see a pug. Who doesn't love a pug? It's a puggy time. I know, buddy. You hate it when I do that. I know. But that's the price. Okay, buddy. Go get it. Go get it. Go get it. Oh, yeah. And then he chases after it. Oh, he's lost it. Perfect. That'll keep him busy for a little while. It's not that one, buddy. Where is it? I know, Andrew. Buddy, do I ever know. It's my stupid brain. That's the problem. It's my stupid brain. Oh, that's so nice to hear, Samir. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Solidarity to you too, brother. That's such a kind thing to say. I'm having an emotional day, man. So I'm like really, really, really worried that I'm gonna break down crying on the stream. Like, and I'm gonna be as upfront as I can. I feel it right here. I feel it right here, man. When I was in theater school, I had a moment where like I was gonna go up and like do something, and I said straight out like. I felt like I was struggling, and my teacher or professor, I guess, I don't know what to call them, she looked at me and she said, "You're feeling energy right now." And I was just like, "Yeah." She's like, "Where?" I was like, "Right here." And she had me lie on my stomach, and the second I lied on my stomach, it was just like this release of occult energy. I have no other way of describing it, where it was just this like, just flooding out. And I feel the energy in the same place right now today because of going through this ODSP rally, talking to the wonderful people there, the wonderful organizers, the passionate and powerful people, and I didn't know what to do with this video. I didn't know what to do with it because it felt wrong. It felt really, really wrong to do like a write-up and talk over it and use them as like a backdrop. Like that felt really bad. And what they were saying was so truthful and so honest and so just viscerally real that I was just like, no, I need this. I need them to talk about it. I need them to talk about it. And so then I get stuck in the whole like, okay, well, how do I do that without people tuning out and it just being boring? And then one of the speakers actually played a song, and I found the lyrics. I found her performance honestly so beautiful, like just everything about it and what she was doing, and so that inspired me to like do a song, and then I would be the background to them. That in the end I would be saying their lyrics. Right, the song is completely hers, Andrea's. And I make a note of that on the video, so I hope that's all good. And then I leave long spaces in between all the verses and everything, and clip in a bunch of stuff that they're saying. And I'm really nervous about it. I feel like I did something good. I hope I did something good. I hope people like it. Boy, do I just like... I would hate to live in a society that turns around and is like, disabled people, and this is lame. And I'll just be like, fuck, like, that's brutal. So I'm nervous about it. I'm super, 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 super nervous about it. I'm feeling nervous generally these days. Yeah, and I got burnt like hell. I got burnt like hell because I'm dumb. I'm dumb. And there's no other explanation, just like literally I'm dumb. Okay, I'm missing people. Hi, Demand Better. How you doing, Ruth? Always a pleasure, Ruth. Thanks for popping in. Oh, man, okay. So how many of you in here? 6? There's got to be 6 of you now. 5, good enough. So this is the big thing that I really want to talk about. And I was thinking about doing a video of it, but the way that I wanted to do the video, I felt wasn't going to do this justice. And that's right, Ruth. So this is a First Nations group, of course, dealing with the discovery of 215 children in a mass grave. Right? Like, absolutely, absolutely brutal. And this whole tiff, I'm going to play the whole thing and then I'm going to go through it again. This whole tiff occurs over this situation. You see
an effort. I gather you don't feel what he's doing is worthwhile.
Well, have you seen how much teenagers are going missing in Thunder Bay? There's white supremacy, obviously. That's what's going on. That young boy. Yeah.
How can he be blamed for that? I mean, you don't think that anything he's doing is helping the situation? Is he an improvement over Stephen Harper? I mean, what talk about his record? Is it?
Excuse me, did I just hear you correctly? How can he be blamed with that?
No.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Don't speak to us that way.
Stop right now. You do not speak to us that way. We are human beings, and the way that you're speaking to us
It's not acceptable.
you are not.
No, stop it. Stop it right now.
We don't want you here. Can you please leave?
Step out.
Step out.
Step out. Then I don't want to hear from you.
You
You don't speak to us like that.
Very simple question. Give
Yeah.
an answer.
And this is the problem, the way you communicate.
I'm not
You're
insinuating anything.
No.
I'm looking for information.
I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm not
gonna
arguing.
stop.
No, stop. Stop. You need to stop.
I'm only
You
asking
need to
you-
stop. Stop. You're a guest here, and you don't even know how to speak to us. You don't even recognize the tone in your voice and your delivery. And no, you're done. You're done. Next question.
I'll re-ask Julie's question. How do you think?
You want to re-ask?
Yes. How do you
Somebody
think?
else's
how
question.
You
do
better be
think
respectful.
I'm being totally respectful. I'm asking how Justin Trudeau's record compared to Stephen Harper's record. Do you think he's improved the situation? I think that's what Julie was asking.
We have a holistic genocide happening here.
I'm.
Don't speak on behalf of
Could you
Julie.
just answer the question,
I can
please?
speak for myself. I was asking.
And I can speak for myself. You know what, white people? You've had your voice here for 524 years. 524 years you've been visible, white lady. You've been visible for 524 years. Look how fast your white man comes and steps up for you. Where is
Whoa.
everybody else to come and step up for us? I have a right to my voice. I'm still fighting for my voice and my visibility.
We'll talk about it.
And I'm telling you right now, there has been 524 years of holistic genocide on Turtle Island. We're the ones that are dying. It's not you that is dying. And as far as how Justin Trudeau is doing, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is we're asking the United Nations to help us, that charges of genocide, a war against humanity, war crimes, and a crime of aggression be laid, because your Liberal Party was also responsible. Every party, every governance that has been in power, there's been a war conflict of Indian Residential School, 60 Scoop, Indian Day School, and Millennium Scoop. None of your governments have clean hands. All of your governments have blood on their hands. None of you are different. You haven't changed because you haven't started your healing journeys. The moment that we have our voice and our backbone, you want to shut us down. And you think you're privileged to disrespect us. The moment we tell you, because of your colonial mindset and your colonial way of being, your white privilege, your white fragility, you can't take our truth. Look how many people came to bat for you, white lady, and you're a guest here. Without us, you'd be homeless. This is over.
Like, just like, boom. Yeah. I don't, this wasn't, I think this is 2 days ago, Samir. So that happened. Okay. Like that all happened. And that is an enormous moment. And the reason why I presented it, and the reason why I think it really behooves us to go through it, is because it's like this enormous thing to unpack that happened in the space of like 4 minutes, like a 4-minute moment where like, the white people show up with the journalists and start like demanding information and begging things. And these, like, the First Nations people are just not tolerating this shit anymore, right? Like, whoa, we're like the most intolerable, like, yeah, but I mean, so like, I as much as I agree with what she's saying, I don't think the delivery is going to find much sympathy along the uninformed. I mean, we are getting to a point now where like we're not going to get sympathy from those people, right? And those people are like a steadily diminishing minority amongst the populace. And moments like this, while they're going to spark up a lot of conversation, or a lot of, it's going to put up a lot of backs. I mean, I think it absolutely has to be done. So I'm gonna walk through this, and it's like I'm gonna do a play-by-play now, because like I say, this is an enormous thing to unpack. And I think I do want to do this on the live stream. I think I'm less interested to do like a video of it. So
I gather you don't feel what he's doing is worthwhile.
So this starts, right, and she asks the question, right, and this journalist is like a typical Karen, if you ask me, right, like it's straight up, just like, yeah, exactly. Both of those statements are absolutely the case.
Making an effort. I gather you don't feel what he's doing is worthwhile.
So the journalist is like, I gather you don't feel like what he's doing is worthwhile. Look at this woman over here when she asks that question. This woman is on like an amazing emotional journey, dude. Like, this woman's story through this is like just a thing of beauty, right? So she's asking the
I
question,
gather you don't feel what he's doing is worthwhile.
literally
Well, have you
laughs,
seen how
turns
much
and looks.
teenagers are going missing in Thunder Bay? You know,
And
there's
this
white
young
supremacy,
lady here is
obviously.
just being
You know,
absolutely
that's what's going
respectful,
on. You know, that
completely
young boy,
wonderful.
Yeah.
right? And she's just trying to
How
be
can he
informed.
be
or
blamed
trust
for
it.
that? I mean, you don't think that anything he's
And then the question comes down, right? How can he be blamed for that? Well, and part of it is actually, in my view, that how can he be blamed for that question, right? As she says later on, right? It's that colonial mindset, but also the capitalist mindset, right? Capitalists think in very short-term, individualist ways, right? So Justin Trudeau comes into power and he inherits this thing that's occurred through time that he is also a part of, and so capitalism tries to absolve him of the past, right? This is why capitalists always are like, slavery was so long ago, right? That was so long ago, right? The colonial period was so long ago, right? Because they're of the opinion that, well, I personally did not directly have a part of that, like coming overseas and murdering a bunch of First Nations people, so I'm absolved, right? Like that's the real genuine opinion of the right. And you can see it in this question that gets asked, right? How can he be blamed for that? How can the leader of Canada, literally the Prime Minister of Canada, receive blame for this like long-term scale set of problems that have been beset by his culture against the First Nations people? Like, how do you think? Especially because, like, it's not like Justin Trudeau has come in and, like, done a whole lot of shit, right? Like, he's come in and, like, he'll wear the headdress or he'll put on the, like, you know, the blanket or whatever, and he'll, like, wear what needs to be done, and he'll bow and he'll do the salute, and he'll, like, he loves costumes. Justin Trudeau loves costumes. Like, that's the one thing you take away from Trudeau's prime ministership during his time in office. It's that any opportunity to wear a costume, this guy will absolutely do it. It's why I kind of understand the Aladdin scandal with him, because I completely see that, like, he puts on the outfit and he turns and looks in the mirror and just goes, something's missing, right? So he just commits to the bit. And because you got to admit that Aladdin costume was good. That was a really, really, really well done Aladdin costume. A little on the racist side, a little bit maybe don't, like, black your face up, bud, but the costume itself, like, pretty good. So, well, and this is the other thing, Ruth, that we'll just get into, right? So she asked the question. This lady just absolutely, you can see it, right? She's, like, smiling. She's got this kind of, like, look on her face where she's got kind of a smile thing. I would argue that Justin Trudeau has done less reconciliation than Stephen Harper. I would argue that Stephen Harper did more towards reconciliation than Justin Trudeau. I am anti-Justin Trudeau, dude. I think he's been a lame duck prime minister, and a lot of the stuff that he has done has entrenched corporate power and capitalist power into the fabric of our system. Like the Canada Infrastructure Bank alone makes Justin Trudeau like this terrifying figure in Canadian politics, right? Way worse than Stephen Harper. I doubt we would have ever let Harper get away with such a thing. Yeah. Okay, so the question comes down.
Obviously, you know, that's what's going on. You know, that young boy. Yeah.
How can he be blamed for that? I mean, you don't think that anything he's doing is helping the situation? Is it?
And then just like
Is he an
slow
improvement
fade,
over
I'm
Stephen
taking the
Harper? I
mic.
mean, what
I'm coming in.
talk about his record?
I'm
Is
taking
it-
the mic over.
Excuse me, did I just hear you correctly? How can he be
You just-
blamed for that?
No.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Don't speak to us that way.
Stop right now.
Now this
You do
moment
not
is really
speak to us
interesting
that
because
way.
obviously they're
We are
offended,
human beings.
right? Like this lady just said, "We are human beings," right? Like we are human beings. If anybody, here's a life lesson for you guys. If you are talking to anybody, okay, anybody, and they say to you, "I'm a human being," or "We are human beings," chances are good you're wrong, right? Like chances are good you need to step back, take a breath, and be like, what is it that I'm engaged in? And take a more apologetic tact, perhaps, And so the very fact that this lady is arguing, like, we're talking about a situation where we have found 215 bodies, right? Children's bodies in a mass grave. That's what we're talking about, right? This is what we're talking about. That's the subject matter. That's these people's history, right? That's that these people are in a position of grief, right? That they're grieving, for God's sakes, right? This is tearing at the scar. This is taking the scar and ripping at it, right? And this Karen comes into this and is like, well, how can he be blamed for that? Right? And so I think they react appropriately, honestly. And then once they react this way, this Karen keeps digging the hole, right? She keeps digging the. Where's the Catholic Church and Pope? Like he's not going to apologize for any of this. He doesn't give a shit.
And the way that you're speaking to us,
It's not acceptable.
Like,
No, stop it.
and still
Stop
she
it
argues.
right now.
we don't want you here. Can you please leave?
Step out.
Now they've asked her to leave.
Step out. Then I don't want to hear from
She
you.
still argues.
You have no right.
You don't speak to us like that.
Pretty simple question. Give
Yeah.
an answer.
And this is the
And look at this, and we even hear her say, like, it's just a simple question, can I get an answer? Like, she might as well be like, it's just a simple question, can I get an answer? Like, shut up, Karen, get the fuck out.
problem, the way you communicate.
I'm not
You're in-
insinuating
No.
anything. I'm looking for information.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Like, and the Karen's position is like, I'm just looking for information robot. Give me the information robot. I have a job to do for the white people that I'm selling this to, right? I have a job to do, which is get information from you. Now, which side of these two options are you on? Are you pro-liberal or are you pro-conservative? Because that's the perspective that I have, right? I need a quote for tomorrow's paper, and I need to know whether or not you guys are liberal or conservative. Was Harper better or was Trudeau better in the genocide that we're all perpetrating against you? Did you prefer the Trudeau face or did you prefer the Harper face? Come on. That's what we're interested in, right? We're not. Oh, no. We're not interested in stopping the genocide. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We want to know which one of these two faces you like better, right?
I'm
not
gonna
arguing.
stop. No, stop. You need to stop.
I'm only.
You need to stop. Stop.
So, like, very
You're-
intense. And so finally there's a cut where they've obviously, like, calmed everything down, right? Things have come to, like, a calming point, right?
Guest here. And you don't even know how to speak to us. You don't even recognize the tone in your voice and your delivery. And no, you're done. You're done.
She's still
Next
pushing
question.
back.
I'll re-ask Julie's question. How do you think?
You
how,
want to re-ask?
And then now
How do you
this
think-
guy pops
You-
up. So you got a Karen and a Kenny, right? And Kenneth shows up and is like, well, clearly what this situation calls for is a white man. That'll solve it. I'll come in and ask the exact same question, right? Like, okay.
Better be respectful.
I'm being totally respectful. I'm asking
I'm being totally respectful. I'm being totally respectful.
how Justin Trudeau's record compared to Stephen Harper's record. Do you think he's improved the situation? I think that's what Julie was asking. I'd like
We
to-
have a holistic genocide happening.
Like, do you think Justin Trudeau has improved the situation? I mean, obviously not, right? And this guy is like wading into it with these the First Nations here, right? After witnessing this like flare up caused by a Karen, right? Like, can I speak to the manager, please? I'd like to speak to the manager of the genocide, please.
Here.
I'm just,
Don't speak on behalf of
could you
Julie.
just answer the question,
I can
please?
speak.
And look at that. Listen to this. This is my absolute favorite moment, I think, of the whole piece, right? what I shouldn't say the whole piece as if it's like a thing of theater. Isn't that brutal, right? Oh my goodness, my own shit. Listen to how this guy asks this question. Listen to this.
We have a holistic genocide happening here.
Don't speak on behalf of
Could you
Julie.
just answer the question,
I can
please?
speak for
So he goes, "Oh, sorry. Could you just answer the question, please? Oh, this is so exasperating. Me, a straight white male, coming to the defense of this Karen. Oh, what a tedious chore. Oh, it's so burdensome. Why can't they just answer the question? Why are they making this so difficult? Oh, like these reporters got exactly what they had coming to them. They got exactly, and this lady levels up the conversation, and she levels up the conversation.
And I can speak for myself. You know what, white people, you've had your voice
White people, so she levels up the conversation right there.
here for 524 years. 524 years you've been visible, white lady.
White lady. Just owned. Just boom. Like, because the Karen thinks she's here and that the First Nations are here, right? Like, she absolutely has this worldview. And by using the phrase white lady, nah, at the very least, right? At the very least, right? At the very least, right? But like, and it just shuts these people up, right? She says white lady and it shuts them down completely. Their side of the conversation is over. And then the rest
You've
of
been
this
visible for 524
the rest of this is just laying out some truth. The rest of this is just laying out some hard fucking truth.
years. Look how fast your white man comes and steps up for you. Where is everybody else to come and step up for us? I have a right to my voice. I'm still fighting for my voice and my visibility. And I'm telling you right now, there has been 524 years of holy.
And like you hear, the guy does try to come in with a question, but he's like really, we are just trying to ask some questions and trying to get something figured out, So it worked. Like, it worked. She came over the top on these people, and they well earned and well deserved. And
Holistic genocide on Turtle Island. We're the ones that are dying. It's not you that is dying. And as far as how Justin Trudeau is doing, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is we're asking the United Nations to help us that charges of genocide, a war against humanity, war crimes, and a crime of aggression be laid. Because your Liberal Party was also responsible. Every party, every governance that has been in power. There's been a war conflict of Indian Residential School, 60 Scoop, Indian Day School, and Millennium Scoop. None of your governments have clean hands. All of your governments have blood on their hands. None of you are different. You haven't changed.
And this statement, right, that she's making right now, all your governments have blood on their hands, right? You can like physically hear white culture just. I mean, look at me, Robin. You can just physically hear. Hi, by the way. You can physically hear all of white culture roll their eyes, right? Every government, okay, right? You can physically feel it, like. But it's absolutely the truth. Like, what she's saying here is absolutely the truth. Every single government, when it comes to dealing with First Nations people, has committed some atrocity or another, or at the very, very, very bare bones, has come into power amidst an atrocity and has literally been like, well, we'll just push that off to the side and move on, right? Because we don't need to take responsibility for it, because that's in the past, right? That was last quarter. Right? And as we all know, what happens in the last quarter, like, that just goes away and then we move forward. Right? That's how that works?
Because you haven't started your healing journeys. The moment that we have our voice.
And I love that phrase because it's so true. Like, we haven't started our healing journeys as a culture, which is why. And Robin, thank you so much for the compliment on the video. I was actually really, really nervous about that video, so thanks so much. Thanks so much for that. But just take a look at how we're treating like disabled people, right? We are abandoning them. We're literally just abandoning them. Like, what are they supposed to do, right? And they're completely invisible. Like, there was no media at this rally. There was nobody there. If it wasn't for me, it literally, the only people who would have recorded it were the organizers, right? So there's literally no third party. There's nobody involving themselves in a media sense to get any of that information out there, to get anything going on at all, right? And so, like, yeah, we obviously have not started our healing, like our honest to God healing journey as a culture. Like, which that's the whole point of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But, like, we've done fuck all about it. Like, we literally erected the commission, and there's like 50 or 60 things that we're supposed to be moving down. It's been like 10 years. We've done like 5 of them or 9 of them. It's just like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we don't. It's all just for show. It's all just to placate the Karens of the world, right? Like, it's just a song and dance. Because that's what capitalism does, baby. That's what capitalism's all about, right? It's just about the propaganda. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. Truth hurts with every minority around the world. Yup. The government needs a complete overhaul. The way they've treated and continue to treat the people of this land is psychopathic. Well, and Matt, it's just like we pretend as though there's this like people, even people who are anti-capitalist, right? Like, who are anti-neoliberal. We pretend as though this journey with the First Nations people begins with neoliberalism, right? That, like, or that our society is in this, like, we're descending into fascism. I hear that a lot, where we're descending into fascism. If you're a First Nations person, if you're a minority group, if you're of any sort, we've always been fascist. We've always been fascist. We came into this continent, right? And honestly, what we were doing over in Britain and France and all that kind of stuff wasn't much better. There's a reason why a lot of these rich people got guillotined, right? There's a reason that happened. And it's because we've always been fascist. We've always been this way, right? And now we're getting to kind of a point where we want to do fascism, but we're kind of embarrassed about it, right? That's really what it comes down to. That's where white culture is at right now, is that we want to do fascism, like, as we've always done. We want to do fascism, but now it's kind of embarrassing. And everybody's got a cell phone, right? And so there's a lot of, like, so it feels a little dingier than it used to, right? Like, you literally, in the 60s, you literally could send paid thugs called the RCMP with priests, right, into First Nations home and kidnap their children, and nobody would say boo about it. Literally at the same time that the Beatles are touring. Literally at the same time that the Beatles are on tour, we're scooping kids out of their homes and jamming them into boarding schools. Like, that's fucked up, right? So you say there's gonna be a revolution, baby, yeah, you know, whoa. Right? It's fucked up. Like, find some of these Ken Monk. Like, Ken Monk. Is it Ken Monk? Am I out of my mind? No, I'm an idiot. It's not Ken Monk. There's a First Nations painter. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Am I just speaking out my butt? Where'd they even get their music from again? What, you mean that's not classic British music? What? That's not like that doesn't come from the soul of Britain, Samir? What are you implying, bud? Okay. I can't spend too much time talking about this issue because it does cause me nightmares. Ken Monkman. I was close. Look how close I was. I feel like I feel like Google should have helped me here. Yeah, dude. So like this one. So you say you want a revolution, baby, you know. Who's gonna save the world? You say you want look at all the lonely people. Boo, 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 boo. I wanna hold your hand. Okay, I gotta actually stop singing those songs because I worry maybe I'll get copywritten. like Kevin Monk. This is it, right? This is where is it? That's it, right? Just straight up, like this is what happened, right? There you go. Like, I'm so glad that there's a person in the world who is doing this and is not dicking around. Like he's just not dicking around. Like, this is how it went, right? How else could it have gone? And then in comes like Karen, sits down in front of a bunch of people. Hey, I know we just found 215 corpses, children, caused from, this big genocide that we're still engaged in. But how do you think Justin Trudeau's doing? Better or worse than Harper? I need a soundbite for tomorrow's article. Yeah, they got exactly what they deserved. Ugh. Okay. I gotta turn the corner. I gotta stop talking about that. It gives me nightmares. It keeps me up. That's actually something that I'm starting to try and be more open about with myself and with people around me and everything. Like, I spend too much time looking at the news and all this kind of stuff. And it does give me nightmares. It does cause me, like, psychic damage. It causes me psychic damage. And I have always just been like, I'll just tough it out. Right? I'll just wade through it. Head down. Just keep punching into it. Right? And do that, like, thing that white men are supposed to do in this culture, which is, like, keep that emotion inside of you. Don't, you're supposed to be stoic and tough and strong and just take it and, right? And, like, express your concerns and express that kind of stuff, but keep your emotion here and don't worry about it. And, like, this is fucking horrible. Like, it's fucking horrible. It's fucking horrible. It's the fucking worst. It's the fucking worst. Right? And, like, because my background is theater, because I set stages and do plays in my brain all the time, it's really easy to set the stage and do the play and see how it all unfolds. And guys like Ken Monkman are super helpful in that regard. They really let you set the stage and run the play, right? And, like, see all the actors. And the more you learn about, like, well, what was being said in Parliament. And, like, they weren't hiding it. Like, that's the big thing about that period of time. They weren't hiding it. It's not like they were like, quietly send those guys over there, CSIS, or some kind of secretive, like, literally we have parliamentary documents where we were like, we need to eradicate these people. They need to be out of our culture completely. Destroy every Indian, right? Like, literally, we have the documents. They are official, stamped by the crown. And, like, that's actually something, Ruth, that I haven't commented on, but I found interesting, that it's the women who are the ones in the front. That the whole time there's, like, two dudes in the background, and they're just, like, there. They don't talk. They're not saying anything at all, right? And I'm not going to make a commentary on it except to observe that it's occurring. That's it. Okay, so I gotta let's leave that in peace. I think that's another reason why I didn't want to do a video on it. Well, that, and, like, honestly, there's just, like, so many people doing so much good work on this particular issue. The serfs, The serfs, and we'll see it in the scroll, I'm sure of it. The serfs, that guy has done, like, in my view, like an absolutely beautiful hour of content. That's just like, if you think that, if you meet somebody who thinks that systemic racism doesn't exist, that's over, dude. Like, that's over. I have an hour-long video to just completely shut you down. Like, just end it. It's over. Okay. New poll shows Nina Turner dominating in Ohio's 11th. Yeah, maybe things will become more democratic, and then the bombs they drop will be painted blue. That's great. That's great. Although, there is sort of a hope in America. I feel like there is this hope in America where right now they're on like this edge, right? Like the Congress, or is it the Senate? The Senate's like split 50-50. And there are some Democrats that are obviously just Republicans in the Democratic Party because they keep voting against all of the progressive legislation. But because the threshold is so close, people are like, maybe in the midterm election, the Democrats will be able to push even farther. And so that the split won't be so close, so that they will actually just be able to put through a mandate, right? And then once the Democrats get that and then don't, everyone will be like, oh, so it was all just a game, because that's all it is. It's just a bullshit game in the United States. Freedom is only a euphemism for the establishment. Oh, yeah. Memorial Day. A day to remember those who died fighting for freedoms we don't have. Yep. These sorts of statements about, like, these war days that we have, like Remembrance Day, are going to get, like, pretty aggressive. Like, a day where we all stop to celebrate those who died for billionaires. How to eat the rich. Just be a bee. Grab another bee. Oh, that's a wasp. Oh, check it out. There they go. I love bees, man. I love bees. I was a beekeeper for a year. And I've been trying to set up another hive because I miss the bees. They're so fascinating. Bees are so friggin' fascinating. Look at them own this wasp. They're just like, you come in here, bud, forget you. You get dunked. Yeah, what, the murder hornet? Get dunked. Get dunked. Okay, we don't need to watch it again. Yep, Los Angeles is the latest city in the U.S. to announce the launch of a guaranteed income program. How much are we talking? 24 million, 2,000 families. So it's another test, right? It's another test that'll probably get shut down. But like, we are getting to a point where like the capitalists are going to do something like this because they'll run out of options, right? They're continuously painting themselves into a corner. And now with the erection of the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, like the problems that capitalism creates for itself can only get worse. Like they literally can only get worse. And so because the Trudeau administration has structurally doubled down on capitalism as the organizational force in our society, the society is going to continue collapsing, and it's going to continue doing terrible, bad things to the people. And so eventually, as a response to their entrenchment of capital, they'll have to pass something like a basic income, because if they don't, right, if they don't pass a basic income, then the people will rebel, right? They need to do something to quell the upcoming throng. Like, if I'm under the age of 30, I have no reason to vote for the Liberals or the Conservatives. Why would anyone under the age of 30 vote Liberal or Conservative? I can't possibly imagine a single argument. For if I met somebody who was under the age of 30 and they were voting Liberal or Conservative, I'd be like, what's wrong with your brain? Like, is there something wrong with your brain? I think there's something wrong with your brain. And so they're going to at least attempt this because they will be out of options, right? And then, of course, it's capitalism, baby, so they'll find a way to mess it up, right? Everybody suspects that's the case, right? Like, anytime there's, like, a basic income, everybody has a reason for why it fails. Even the people who would benefit from it the most. They find a reason for why it fails. And, I mean, it's capitalism. That's what capitalism does. It tries to make things fail. It's attempting to make things fail. The only thing it doesn't want to see fail is the wealth of the capitalists, right? That's it. And so something like a basic income, they'll do it, and then they'll find a way to totally game it or like completely dismantle any benefits. And I suspect that's probably the truth, but it should at least give people a moment of respite, like a little moment where they're just like, oh, I can pay my bills and my rent and have food. Oh, thank God. And then when the capitalists start to move against them, people will finally be radicalized enough to be like, why are we even negotiating with these guys? Why are these guys even in the conversation? What do? Oh, fucking nothing. Literally nothing. They're parasites. Oh, get rid of them. So, did you see the breakdown by the Parliamentary Office of the costs of different ways of paying for UBI? I've seen something from the Parliamentary Office. I don't know if there's like a more recent one. Maybe I've missed it. Here, let's UBI PBO breakdown. Is this the one? This is what we're talking about? As can be seen, would range between 30 billion and 71 billion. Okay, let's be extremely clear about something here, okay? 30 billion is the amount that poverty costs the province of Ontario to maintain. What do I mean by that? I mean that in order to have shelters, in order to have food banks, in order to have emergency police services, in order to have emergency healthcare services, in order to deal with the cost of keeping people in poverty, it costs the province of Ontario $30 billion. Okay? So this is talking about the cost for the nation. So obviously, like once you include like British Columbia, Quebec, right? Like big, and then like the rest of the prairies and like all of this, it's obviously costing us more than 30 billion to maintain poverty in this society, right? And I have actually come to the conclusion that the capitalists know that it costs more to keep people poor. Like this is my thing, is that people are like, how are you going to pay for a basic income? And I'm literally like, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to have a basic income. It costs the society less money to give people food and shelter than it is to pay for the outcomes that withholding food and shelter creates. And I am of the opinion that the capitalists know this, that they're aware, that they are well aware that resolving the poverty issue, right, resolving the food and shelter issue would be cheaper. They know it. And so they look at keeping people desperate and in poverty as an investment, right? They look at keeping people in poverty as a way to maintain their dominance and control in the society exclusively, right? So to them, it's an investment. Keeping people homeless and in the street and keeping like the disabled, giving them no money, not helping them at all, right? It's an investment because it terrifies the shit out of everybody and keeps everybody in line. And so they're completely willing, like, oh, it would cost us $10 billion less to have a basic income and it would resolve a lot of problems. You know what? I'm happy paying that $10 billion extra because it terrifies everybody and keeps them working in my factories. Given where we currently are, is there a peaceful way to transition away from capitalism? Yeah, stop voting for it. There is a peaceful way to do this. There is. And that peaceful way is to just stop voting for it. Like, never vote conservative under any circumstances. And the people who are voting conservatives are fascists, right? They are fascists. And I'm done with pretending like there's a degree there. If you are currently voting for today's Conservative Party, you are voting for fascists, okay? Simple as that. The Liberals are so pro-capitalist, like, the Canadian Infrastructure Bank is a fascist institution. Like, it's the merger of the private sector and the public sector, right? We can't build infrastructure without the say-so of rich people. And it purposefully increases the wage gap. It makes the income inequality issue much, much worse. But the truth is that politics has always been and still remains a numbers game, right? And if everybody stopped voting for capitalists and made it very clear that oh, you're supported by capital, we're not going to vote for you, right? And if everybody did that, yeah, the Liberal Party would stop kowtowing to capital, right? They would, because fundamentally, the democracy that exists in Canada, and I want to be very explicit about this. I'm talking Canada, because we have a functioning parliamentary system. We have a functioning Supreme Court system, right? We have laws that we actually abide by, right? We actually do pay attention to our legal structure and our legal system. You want to talk about America? Now you're talking about a different place, right? America's fucked. America's going to have a war. Like, I don't see how they resolve it any other way. And that's just indicative of America. That's what it means to be un-American, right? Like, that's how they do things. Here in Canada, when we finally got to the, like, oh, should we own people? Chattel slavery, right? Should we own people? What do you think, right? Well, in America, they had to fight a civil war about it, right? A devastating, crushing civil war that killed a lot of people, right? Split the nation in half, and they had a fight over it. Here in Canada, we passed legislation. We just said to one another, chattel slavery sounds like a bad idea. Let's stop doing it. And so we did, right? Same story with like the universal healthcare system. Like we passed legislation. We did it, right? So I think that we can transition away from capitalism successfully, peacefully in like Europe and Canada, because we have laws and a legal structure that is actually not good, but decent, that functions to a degree. But the United States, they have no structures. They have, like, on purpose, too. Like, they've got no structures. They've got no institutions. They don't really have laws. Like, their legal system is a complete fraud, right? Their Supreme Court is just a bunch of bought mafia bosses, essentially, right? And it's like this total cluster fucking disaster in the United States. And the only way I perceive that they are going to deal with any of this, like, once the United States dollar tanks, right? Once the United States dollar tanks, and once we make a transition away from fossil fuels, and America loses a lot of its oomph on the world stage, it's very difficult for me to perceive how they don't just break up, right? The United States of America doesn't need to maintain its federal structure, right? And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to start asking, like, what is this federal government doing for us? It taxes a lot of money away from us so that we can go bomb people in the Middle East? No. Like, no. Just no. And so you're going to see, like, big separation movements and big independence movements happen throughout the United States, for sure. Like, I just don't see how that doesn't happen, right? I just don't see how, like, you think about, like, Texas or California. Like, California is, like, the third largest economy on the continent. Does California really need the federal United States of America? Do they? Really? Why? Right? So, like, there's big shakeups happening in the United States. Big shakeups coming for sure. For sure. We'll see how it all shakes out here in Canada. But I do believe that there is a peaceful way forward. But that peaceful way forward is by joining groups like Socialist Action, is by joining third-party, non-affiliated political organizations. Don't join the NDP. Don't give the NDP your $5 and expect them to actually pay any attention to you, right? We have to organize into voting blocks. And when the time comes to actually go into the party and vote for things, we need to show up. Because ultimately, politics is a numbers game, and if they show up with 100 people and you show up with 1,000 people, you win, right? And that's true no matter what. That's true no matter what. So organize in voting blocks, in anti-capitalist organizations. Socialist Action is a great one. It's the one that I'm a part of. Also, like, Marxist.ca does fairly well. They show up. Right? And that's what it comes down to, right? Show up. Like, show up. Like, it's all well and good to, like, be like, yeah, I support leftist, anti-capitalist policies, but, like, when the vote comes, right? And I don't mean, like, the vote to vote in the NDP or the Liberals. I mean, like, the vote for what policies exist within the NDP, right? And, like, organizations like Socialist Action are going to tell you about that. And You're going to show up, you're going to vote, and it's a numbers game. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here, so I'm going to get to you, Wolf Mother. I promise. Nice to see you, by the way. Thanks for popping in. It's just a matter of buying off the Imperial core so we forget little annoyances like Palestine again. Yeah, there's something about that, Robin. They're losing control of the narrative. The Palestine narrative has changed here in Canada. I haven't seen any polling data yet. I'm sure it's being done, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't closer to like a 50-50 split, where people were looking at like the Palestine-Israel conversation and being like, we are doing some shitty stuff in Palestine. Like, that's not good what's happening. Cost isn't the issue, but it would put tax loopholes in jeopardy. Yeah. I can't think of a single unifying force for Americans. Maybe the Olympics could help. The Olympics, wouldn't that be hilarious? The whole thing falls apart because they get silver. They always unite under the banner of freedom, TM, yeah. Okay, do you think the Great Reset will actually happen in Canada? So the Great Reset is propaganda, without a doubt. The only reason that the wealthy are talking about Great Reset is because they know there's going to be big shifts, right? They know there's going to be big shifts. And just like they bullshitted us with propaganda about trickle-down economics, right? That trickle-down economics or supply-side economics, right? Bootstrap yourself, right? A rising tide raises all boats. All those slogans and propaganda phrases that surrounded the neoliberal experiment, right? Which has been a catastrophe and a total failure in every regard. Like, it's completely irredeemable, the neoliberal experiment. And and so in the same way, like, the wealthy know that the game is up. Like, they know it's over, right? And they know what's going to happen because they're the ones that are, like, they're the ones planting the C4 at the base of the economy. They know, right? Like, you've got, like, Citadel, which is an enormous hedge fund, and the Citadel is, like, shorting the entire American market, right? Like, think about that, dude. Like, Citadel is literally taking bets against the entire stock market. So they're expecting a crash. Like, they're expecting a decline. And so they're planting the C4 to ensure that it happens, right? And when it happens, when the American economy goes down, and when the dollar goes down, and when the whole thing happens, the Great Reset, right? The Great Reset. They're going to bullshit us and be like, things will be so much more equal. Don't rise up against us. Everything's going to be great. Don't rise up against us. This is a tumultuous time, but we need to get through it together. Don't rise up against us, right? And we should absolutely rise up against them. Like, we absolutely should do that. We should, because what's going to happen, structurally this must happen, right? And I am to a point where I'm convinced that this is so obvious that anybody who tells you anything else is living in a fairy tale land of delusion and dreams, right? Capitalism collapses. I mean, capitalism has already collapsed, right? That if this is capitalism, if capitalism was ever a structure that was stable, right? We are here, right? It's already fallen over. We're just waiting for it to hit the ground, right? But we're here. Because, like, these things take a long time, right? Like, societies take a long time to collapse and to fail and decline and die, right? And so when capitalism falls over and is finally, like, the dust settles, what's going to be left, right, is neo-feudalism. That's the structure that will remain, right? And Justin Trudeau erecting institutions like the Canadian Infrastructure Bank are essentially guaranteeing that that's the case. Right? That once everything collapses, all that will be left is a type of feudalism. Like, who is Jeff Bezos if not a king or a feudal lord, right? Who is Bill Gates? Like, Bill Gates, for God's sakes, is buying up farmland. Bill Gates is the largest farmer in North America, right? Classic agrarian, right? So he's just going to own a bunch of farmland. He's a baron, for God's sakes. He might as well be. Cameroonian harpooner. So you wandered in right at the most beautiful time. I'm good to see you. I'm happy to answer this question. How on earth is capitalism collapsing? It structurally must. There's capitalism has a paradox built within it that the capitalists want wages to be zero, right? And they fight very hard to ensure that it's the case. In America, they've been successful mainly, right? The minimum wage is like $7.25. It's like as low as it can be. The neoliberal experiment took made this hyper aggressive, right? That, oh, we're not going to pay you $7.25 because I can go overseas now with this NAFTA trade deal and the gutting of the manufacturing base. And I can go to India or China and pay somebody like 50 cents a day or less, right? Or less. And they work way harder because we can literally whip them. And if they don't work as hard as we want, we can just throw them into the ditch out back. And so what that does is it suppresses wages across the board, and everybody. And we see that completely in the decoupling of wages from productivity. There's all kinds of graphs that you can see, right? There's all kinds of information on this, that productivity and wages have decoupled completely. Wages have stagnated totally. And so this ultimately leads to total systems collapse, because you end up in a situation where the people who are making the goods, the workers, can't actually afford the goods that they're making, right? Because they're not paid well enough. And the capitalists are so sociopathic and short-sighted that they don't care, right? They genuinely, like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, like they don't give a fuck about any of that. When you fall into poverty and disrepair, as most of the society currently is, right? Hey DJ, how you doing? Nice to see you. When the society falls into despair, right? The rich just retreat into their gated communities, right? Their skyscrapers, right? And just tell you to go die, right? And that's neo-feudalism. And it exists, like there are places in the world where it's literally like a sea of slums. It's literally a sea of slums and a skyscraper right in the middle of it. And nobody who lives in the slums is allowed to go in the skyscraper. And the skyscraper is owned by one person, right? That's complete. I hope you liked it, DJ. I hope you liked it. I'm really nervous about that video. So I hope you liked it. So that's how capitalism collapses, right? Because ultimately the capitalists abandon everybody after stealing their productivity, right? That's how the system is structured. And when you look at here in Canada, that gets much, much worse because we've erected institutions like the Canada Infrastructure Bank that explicitly entrench capital into the system, right? That, you know what, I've always wanted to do this, so I'm just going to do it. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, buddy, you're slow. Good boy. All right. Got my suitcase. These are poker chips. All right. I love this because this is great. I hope you're still here, Cameroonian. If you're not here, then I'm doing this for just sort of our own entertainment. And I just want to be really clear, DJ. Thank you so much for the compliment. I appreciate it. But I just want to be really clear, not my song, right? That the lady who had the guitar, that was her song. And I want to make that really, really clear. I take no credit for that song whatsoever. So she played a beautiful piece and it really inspired me. Really inspired me. Yeah, thanks, bud. Hey, Cameroonian, are you still here? So let's break our whole society into 10 percentiles. Perfect, bud. You're gonna learn a lot right now. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. I love doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then I'll fill it out. So we're breaking. You guys can see the. Here, I don't even need to ask that. Oh, you totally can't. That sucks. Can I do that? Okay. Perfect. Poker chip stream. Poker chip stream. Everybody loves a poker chip stream. Poker chip stream with some music, and we're all having lots of fun. Yeah, we're all having lots of fun with a poker stream. We're all having lots of fun with a poker stream. Gonna put this back up. Perfect. Okay. So, we have broken our society into percentiles, right? Poor, rich. Let's just make it as simple as that, right? You're in the bottom, you're at the top. So right now it's completely equal, right? That's her song. She made that song. Oh no! Like I did a cover. Like I did the cover. Like what you heard was me, but it was her song. And so it's Andrea was her name. Okay, so poor, rich, right? We can tell they're the rich because there's gold beside them, right? Okay, so most people, right? Most people don't think that this is the way to organize a society, right? Most people think, no, this is no good. It makes sense that things are like a little bit unequal, right? Like a little bit unequal. People generally think that a distribution of wealth in the society, and of course, Cameroonian, stop me if you've heard this one, right? Just stop me if you've heard it, like you know. So this is actually how most people want the society to look, right? And like, it's a little bit less heavy on the top. So so somewhat like this, right? Most people think that society should look this way, right? Now, most people think that society actually looks more like this. When you poll people, most people think that society actually looks more, a little bit less here, a little bit more there, and a little bit more here. Most people think society looks this way, right? So that your income inequality is actually much worse, right? And people are correct in that regard, that the distribution is much worse. You're poor, like you get barely enough to make a go of it, right? And then you steadily kind of go up the income string, okay? So this is what it actually looks like. Yeah. So this is what it actually looks like, right? Now remember, there's 20% people down here, right? They have nothing. And in fact, so these guys have nothing, right? These guys are actually in debt. And who are they in debt to? These guys. Okay? So not only do these guys have all this, right? But they also have debts from these guys over here, right? Probably these guys too. And as you can see, right, 30%, 40%, 50%, right? So where's your middle class, right? Where's your middle class? It simply doesn't exist, right? It simply doesn't exist. There is no middle class in North America, right? All the wealth is here or here, and then these people kind of have like a little cut of it, right? And then these people are basically wiped out, right? And that's how this system is structured. So you can just look at it and figure out pretty fast, oh, this collapses, right? It can't sustain itself. How? How does it sustain itself? These people literally can't buy what's being produced in the factories. They can't buy it, right? They don't have any income. They don't have any extra money or anything, right? And so now I'm going to introduce to you the concept of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, okay? So what is the Canada Infrastructure Bank? It is a bank in which, instead of taxing wealth away from these people, right? So like, let's say you want a bridge built. Well, in a normal, rational society, you tax this wealth, right? And that wealth would go to, like, you know, construction workers, right? Maybe it would go here, right? It would be distributed somewhat. So let's pretend like to build a bridge, it costs like that much, right? And so there'd be like construction workers, right? There'd be engineers. You need engineers, right? You need some of this. So there'd be a bit of wealth distribution through the taxation of that you would do to these guys for a bridge, right? Dun 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 dun. And of course, the way our system is structured, like, everybody's buying from these guys. They own everything, right? So eventually that money does retreat back upwards, but at least it retreats back upwards through spending, right? That these guys then get to spend this, right, in order to get, like, food and shelter, right? Base necessities, right? Okay. So that's a normal, rational taxation system. So what the Canada Infrastructure Bank says instead is, okay, instead of taxing the wealth away, we're going to borrow the wealth. So we'll take 4, right? So we're going to borrow the wealth away. So then we build the bridge. So then we need to pay these guys, right? All that kind of stuff, that redistribution we just did. Here's the thing, though. Because we borrowed the money at interest, right? Interest. So we borrowed the money, right? And so that means that we have to pay it back because it's a loan. So that means these guys, right? Well, where are they going to get that? So that means all the money they got, too bad. We've got to give it back. And now, so we've given the money back, but now we've got to pay the interest. Where do you think that's coming from? Where do you think that's coming from? Do you think the interest is coming from here? Right? Do you think it's even coming from here, or do you think it's coming from here? Right? Let's pretend for a moment and say that it comes from here. Interest. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out that as you move forward, okay, you're going to borrow this money, you're going to pay it back. Interest. 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 Maybe every so often interest. Maybe every so often interest. Right? So this system collapses because eventually it looks like this. How do these people get food? How do they get shelter? How do they buy goods? How do they do anything? How do they do anything? It's all right there, right? That's how our system is structured. And if you have a system that's structured like this, eventually, I'm not going to do it because it's going to scare my dog. I was going to tip it over. I was going to be like, crash, dramatic. Eventually it falls over because it has to, because that's how it's structured. Or, let's be very clear about something. Here's another method, right? Here's another way that this can go. And it can go this way. So I'm just going to readjust. So, and let's be, and so it actually will never be the case that it looks this way. Why? Because the wealthy need police. They need police. So they're going to ensure that the most well-paid people are the police, right? And that's actually the truth. Did you know that the biggest military force in the world is the American military, right? Then number 2 is the Chinese military. And then number 3 is the American police force. I'm going to say it again. Number 1, American military. Number 2, Chinese military. Number 3, the American police force. They're there, right? There's your military personnel. There's your police force, right? And so if there were a popular uprising of some sort from these guys, because remember, they're still here. Well, these guys are here, right? And so you just retreat. You just retreat into your palaces. Let these guys be your thugs and beat everybody up. And congratulations, you live in feudalism, right? And this is exactly where we're heading, and it's happening structurally. It's happening structurally. You can see it. You can observe it. It's becoming more and more obvious as time moves forward. It's becoming very clear. And the only way that we can change it is if we tax the wealth away. Simple as that. Just get the political will, get the political desire to tax the wealth away, and then the problem of feudalism will resolve itself. Of course, the wealthy aren't going to just let you do that, right? They're not going to just let that happen. So they will fund all kinds of methods and all kinds of propaganda machines to ensure that it doesn't. So, Cameroonian, if you're still here, I hope that answered your question. I'll happily answer more questions. Yeah, me too, Jeff. Me too, Jeff. It was good to see you today, bud. Sorry I didn't say bye. I didn't have the. I just kind of ran out of time. I'm surprised that I actually got the video up. Honestly, like it happened kind of like at the 0 hour. So, pretty happy with that. Okay. How you guys all doing today? How many people I got in here? Did I chase anybody off with all that? 8? I'll take it. I hope you guys are all doing really well, man. What a time. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Framing our failed emergency services is a feel-good story. Man in Nebraska orders pizza for his grandma in Florida to make sure she was all right after he couldn't reach her following Hurricane Matthew. Police and fire couldn't do it, but Papa John's got there in 30 minutes and put the cell phone to her ear. Jeez Louise, man. Jeez Louise. Like, this is what I mean when I say that capitalism only does one thing well, which is propaganda. Capitalism does propaganda very, very, very well. And we're talking about a system that convinced people that marijuana was scary, right? Like, it does propaganda very, very well and very, very effectively. And stuff like this, these feel-good stories that you see all the time, where there's like literally presenting you the nightmare dystopia that is the society you live in, and then being like, isn't that great? And you're like, not fucking really. But a lot of people, the Karens of the world, will take a look at this and just be like, oh, that's so nice. Wow, what a caring, son. And probably won't even think about the fact that like a human being got into a vehicle and put their life into danger in the middle of a hurricane to deliver a pizza. Like, yeah, it tells you something about the society you look in. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course it is. All you have to do, Robin, is forget that the worker is a person. And this happens all the time in the society. Like, I work in retail. I know for a fact that people come in, and people are like long-term customers, like people I've known for a long time. They walk in the door and they view me as an NPC, that I am just a non-player character. I'm not any different than like the window dressing, right? I'm just part of the furniture, right? And my job is to be their retail robot and answer any retail questions that they have. And once they're finished with the retail questions they have, right, they just walk away, right? They're not interested in like my opinions or my thoughts or my feelings or my expressions or anything human or meaningful. I am just retail bot, right? And if I stop acting like a retail bot, they complain and I get in trouble, right? So the distillation of a person's humanity is absolutely crucial for the consumer culture to function. That if you actually walk into these environments and see the person who's serving you as a human being, you instantly recognize that you're in a dystopian hellscape. Instantly. It's and I hate it when I walk into a place and a person's talking to me like this. I really hate that when I walk into a place and a person's like, "Hey, how you doing today? Oh, so glad to see you. Anything else I can help you find? How you doing today?" Because I'm like, you're a fake person and I know you are, right? Because like I do that. I've done that, right? I put on the attitude, "Hey, how you doing today? Hey, can I help you? Hey, thanks for coming on in. What can I do for you today?" Right? You have to. That's the only way you get promoted. It's the only way you actually get any raises. It's the only way you make any more money in a retail environment is by putting on this fake bullshit like nonsense thing. I would much rather walk into an establishment and be served by somebody who's like, "Do you want paper or plastic today? Beep, beep, beep. There's a coupon. Okay, cool. Bye." I'd much rather serve that guy because at least they're being honest. At least they're standing there and being like, "Yeah, this is stupid and shitty and I hate it." And I'm like, "Yeah, great." Like that's honest. It's the fake people that really kill me. And it's so funny because there is actually a tipping point where like they're so fake where the falseness becomes who they actually are. Like that's the thing that's kind of scary about retail in capitalism is that to be successful, like you gotta remember these people are doing this most of their lives, right? And so there does come a point where they lose themselves. They lose the ability to distinguish who they actually are. That's why this pandemic has actually been so existentially crushing for lots of people, because you stop being a retail robot, right? You stop being a retail robot, and that was your identity. You got to a point in your life where that was who you are. You're a retail robot, and you just sort of accept that. And you need a spell in the Zen booth. Oh, the Amazon booth. Jesus, yeah. I love Amazon. Amazon's so great. Yeah, right. And like, so all of these people suddenly get laid off and they're at home and they're no longer the retail robot. And suddenly they have a moment of time and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm not actually a person. I have no identity. I'm not a real thing. I don't know what to do with myself." The crushing despair, right? Anyway. I got fired from Home Depot Kitchen Design Center and I spent too much time upselling my customer buying 2 kitchens. No, wait a minute. Did you get fired from Home Depot because you were spending too much time upselling a customer buying 2 kitchens? Is that the story, Ruth? I hate these kinds of stories where like you're doing a good job and you get fired over it. I hate those kinds of stories. I knew a barista who I worked with, and yeah, that's so dumb. Your bosses are idiots, because all capitalists are idiots. Like they can't help themselves. They naturally become moronic because they lose touch with reality, and they lose touch with humanity. They don't know what humanity is. Everybody's a machine, even the consumer, right? Just like beep boop boop, I'm here to buy kitchen set, beep boop boop. And you're just like beep boop boop, I'm here to sell kitchen set, beep boop. And then you have the falsest conversation that people can have. "Hey, how you doing today?" "Oh yeah, I'm doing great, just here to get this." "Oh, perfect. Do you need anything else today?" "No, I'm good." Oh, okay, that'll be $15.34. "Oh, okay." Beep. "Do you need your receipt?" "No, that's okay, thanks." "Okay, good, great, have a nice day." There's nothing human about that conversation. It's the falsest conversation, and it's the conversation that most retailers have most of the time. Oh yeah, if you yeah, for sure. Send me a link. Yeah, I got it right here. If it pops up, you're in here, are you? Okay. And so it's like the whole thing is, just let me know when you sent it, Robin. And the whole thing is fake. And so okay, so I was working with this barista, And she was a barista, right? Like, for all the shit that I talk about retail and all this kind of stuff, you do occasionally meet people who are retailers. Like, that's why they're here. They're here to be a retailer, and they want to be a retailer, and they want to do that, and they love it. I had a boss for a couple of years who I really respect, and I believe completely that that's him. That he came into the world to be a retailer, and he did well, and he loved it, and he just did a great job with it. And so I knew this young lady who was a barista. She was obviously supposed to be a barista. She was just so lovely to be around, treated everybody so nicely, and she got fired from the place where I was because she was spending too much time talking to customers. And like, the establishment that she worked for went bankrupt the next year because obviously these people are incompetent. There is no such thing as a barista that spends too much time talking to people. That's the whole fucking job. That's the whole fucking job. They ask this after your delivery now. I can't imagine what algorithm they're applying to employees. Oh my goodness, this is going to be some dystopian nightmare stuff. Nope, not here. Not here. Not here. Not here. Are you in? You must be. I invited you, I'm sure of it. Not here. Wah, 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 wah. Unless you sent it to my... so you did. Okay. You can also leave a compliment for your delivery driver. Cares for others. Delivered with care. Above and beyond. Followed instruction. Respectful of property. On time. Do you know why they're doing this? It's because they know that millennials especially, and of course this is not well publicized, but millennials are just starting to give 5 stars for everything, right? Because we know that, like, no matter what's happening in that person's life, right? We know that their livelihood is impingent on that star rating. We're really aware of it. And so they're trying to do away with star ratings because millennials are and Gen Z are just giving 5s no matter what. So it's become worthless to the manager class, who is worthless in the first place, right? Like the CEO and like managerial class is completely worthless. They don't actually. Yep, and if you donate to my Patreon, I can get you on it too. That's sort of the one thing that I insist. Yeah, and can you check them all? Can you check all of them? Or just the one? Right? Because, like, I just can't imagine somebody being like, what happens if you don't offer a compliment at all? Is that a disaster? So but you see how they've like roboticized you, right? That you are part of this robotic system of consumption. Like that's what capitalism is all about. It's all about turning everybody into robots and insisting that nobody actually has like an emotional core. Conservative MP sponsored petition from anti-LGBTQ pastor who is calling for civil disobedience to oppose conversion therapy bill. This is like the worst sentence ever written. It's just so awful. Oh, well, you have no idea what they do with the info? They create a profile, right? They create a profile. That's what they do. And like, so if there's a person who just keeps getting on time, right? Or keeps getting followed instructions, let's say. Here's a great example. Jeffrey has a high level of followed instructions. People really are just like, yeah, follow instructions, right? And they keep these things over time. And so what that means is that when they get a difficult order or something that requires a lot of instructions, they'll just funnel it over to Jeffrey, right? Because they've created a profile, and the major piece of feedback that they've received about Jeffrey is that he follows instructions. And so it's all about how to exploit people better, right? That's what it is. It's just all about how to exploit people better, right? what's a really, like, on time, right? On time. Like, I've got a time sensitive job. Fiona always shows up on time, right? Give Fiona the on time sensitive job. And you can algorithm this, right? You can create just an automated system that does what I'm talking about. This person has a high level of X. X goes into Y, therefore put X into Y. Like, it's, that's probably not what the algorithm is like. It's probably a touch more complex than that. Yep, data farming. If the product is free, you are the product. Exactly, John. That's exactly right. Yeah, you live in a dystopian society. Like, you live in, this is a dystopian society. We are here. Like, for God's sakes, look at what we're doing now, right? We're communicating over, like, what might as well be like portals, right? Like, I'm a wizard teleporting my consciousness across time and space into your mind space through a teleportation device and screen, and all of that is energized by burning the bones of your ancestors, harvested from the earth and driven into machines. It's all very necromantic. There's a necromancy to what we're doing, right? So it makes sense that we are just like a horrible nightmare creature because we harvest the bones of our ancestors and burn them to make cars go fast and like open portals between one another. Ugh. Native Women's Association leaves National MMIWG action plan process, calling it toxic and dysfunctional. Yeah, things are fraying, man. Like, people are getting tired. People are getting tired of just like this constant perpetual status quo. And I'm seeing it basically everywhere. Where just people are tired of normalcy, right? They're tired of dealing with any like all of it. It's all bullshit. Like, every part of it is bullshit, and it's made to be bullshit. And like, because of my theater background and because of my retail background, like, I can spot this bullshit so quickly. And so, like, when you walk into, like, I don't know, a Bed Bath & Beyond, and they've got like signage up and everything's supposed to like smell like lavender and all this kind of stuff, like, it immediately starts pinging me. Like, so they focus group a whole bunch of people to get this signage up. They know that lavender makes people work this way, so I bet that they've like paired this lavender with, like, usually when people are smelling lavender, they're thinking about this, so sell them this, right? Like, it's all extremely cynical, and it's all extreme. Like, once you start doing it and once you get it into your brain, it becomes really plain. It becomes really clear. But the thing is that most people don't do that because it takes a lot of effort. It's kind of exhausting. Especially when you live in a society that's as fake as ours is. Right? It's just like, we just live in a total bullshit society. Like, everything about it is totally false. Which, I mean, you have to maintain if you want to keep deceiving yourself into believing that you are not colonizers, for example. Right? You have to live in a delusion. You have to live in an illusionary society, right? What scares me is the thought that we might get to a point where the illusion breaks and everybody who is the beneficiary of colonialism just finally admits it, that, okay, fine, colonialism, all that kind of stuff. What are you going to do about it? And we just move on that way, right? And all of the, like, conservatives and liberals and like colonizing apologists just move forward saying, like, yeah, well, we've got the power, go fuck yourself. That's my biggest fear. Like, right now, we kind of believe that we can rationalize or shame the wealthy to come to a point where they need to start acting reasonably. I'm not so confident that will be the case. I think that if we finally get to a point where it's so obvious that they'll just drop the act and just start acting, like colonizing, genociding maniacs. I don't really have any value to add to the fact or anything by tweeting about it, but the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange and his wife, a United States senator, were insider trading off the impending coronavirus disaster with Senate briefing information. Yeah. I love this kind of tweet because it's the same thing as the Panama Papers. It just keeps circulating. And people just like circulate it around each other. Like, if we keep circulating this harder, something will actually happen about it. Conflict has broken out between a sleeping family and a heavily armed militia. The militia opened fire on the family and was met with projectiles, including a shoe and a spoon. Government officials have expressed staunch support for the right of the militia to defend itself and urge both sides to come to a revolution. Yeah, that's basically right. That's basically right. Yeah, Canadian government getting blamed for past atrocities at residential schools? The Catholic Church. Someone was asking about what's the Pope said. The Pope said nothing. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to come out about anything, right? Oh, I know, buddy. I know. I'm talking to myself as far as you're concerned. Got a little puppy over here, and he's looking at me like, who are you talking to, John? Who are you talking to? That is Kelly Loeffler and her husband in Georgia, and her women's basketball team wore BML shirts to piss her off. Take that, Kelly Loeffler, you loser. Air Canada paid $10 million in COVID-19 bonuses to top execs while negotiating government rescue plan. Yeah, as we're investigating what happened in the COVID period with the Trudeau government, we're realizing very cleanly that Trudeau gave a whole lot of money to rich people, right? Like, oh yeah, the CERB cost us so much, I gave triple that to rich people, but CERB cost us so much. Like, shut up. It's overt, it's obvious, it's in our faces. Like, if you're voting Conservative, I think you have a mental illness. But if you're voting Liberal, like, you're not that much better. Like, you are kind of just a dupe. And what's the worst is the type of Liberal voter who is going along with that kind of like, well, if I don't vote Liberal, then the Conservative might get in, because they know they're a dupe, right? That, like, you know that you're voting against your own interest. You know that you're voting, like, you're throwing your vote towards a person who's going to fuck you over, and you know it. And so you, like, are a dupe, but you are aware of it. Oh, man, I'm shocked Trudeau did that. Yeah. Unions warning of mass exodus of nurses due to working conditions, lack of pay. What? You mean if you do absolutely nothing to support nurses in the midst of a crisis, that once the crisis resolves itself, they're all going to leave? And like, I hope that all of these nurses and doctors that leave get into politics, and I hope they do it right away. I hope that they do it right away. Do you think this pandemic is a plandemic? Like, do I think that the wealthy oligarchs and the elite inflicted a pandemic on us purposefully? No. I think there's way too many things wrong with that scenario, right? Just like it would require collusion with, like, people who have been ruthless enemies with one another. Like, it just would require, and like ultimately something like a plandemic, something like where it's like a planned sort of event, is it's way too chaotic. It's like way too much. And I feel like the actions of the wealthy at the beginning of the pandemic especially kind of give lie to the idea that it was planned, because they panicked. They panicked. The only reason Justin Trudeau and the Liberals passed the CERB in the first place was because they panicked, right? And then they got talked down from the CERB by the Conservatives, right? That the Conservatives showed up and said, you shouldn't have passed the CERB. You should have extended a whole bunch of benefits to the rich and kept these workers on the hook. And then now the Trudeau Liberals have spent their entire time doing everything they can to dismantle the CERB. And we've watched them do that. So I think there's too much panic to think that it was planned. And I think it's too chaotic. There's too much going on to hold on to the idea that there's a plan. Now, did they create plans afterwards? Like, once the pandemic sort of took hold and all that kind of stuff? Sure. Like, never let a good disaster go to waste, right? But I don't think that they were going along thinking, and then the pandemic will happen, right? Another shocker. We re-dead. Yeah. What do you think about Trudeau wanting to lower age of consent to 14? I don't know enough about the subject. On the face of it, it seems scummy, but I bet you it's more complex than we think. Like, I bet you he's like lowering the age of consent because if a 17-year-old has sex with a 14, or if like an 18-year-old has sex with a 14-year-old, it's technically a crime, and that's creating a whole lot of problems and all this kind of stuff. And I have not yet been vaccinated. I am really, 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 really behind. Yeah, I'm super behind the 8 ball. Yeah, I just think like Trudeau lowering the and that's always the case with these sorts of issues, that there's usually much more to the story. It's very rarely the case that it's like Trudeau actually lowers the age of consent. Hold on. Trudeau age of consent 14. Age of consent reform. Here you go. It doesn't look like there's much here. Okay, I'm not gonna spend too much time researching this. I just think I'll land on like it's probably interesting article. Which article? Sorry, bud. Nice to see you, DM. Nice to see you. In fact, if the first human that evolved immediately started working a job at $7.25 an hour for 2 million years, today they would not have the wealth of Jeff Bezos. Yeah. I like that people are using time. Yeah, links don't go through, DM. Sorry, bud. Do you want me to search up something? I can search something. Or if you give me $1 through my Patreon, I can get you into the Discord. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, of course, the vaccines are, as safe as they can be. Nothing's ever truly safe. Like, there's always going to be complications. Every individual is their own thing. And it doesn't matter what you do. There's going to be, like, if the purpose of the vaccine is to go click, right, there's always going to be click, right? There's always going to be click, and then there'll be, like, click, right? It always happens. But, like, it's about large-scale sort of stuff. Like, when penicillin came in, they just, like, mass spread penicillin through the populace in order to deal with, like, huge problems. And, like, some people were just allergic to that shit and died. Right? So it wasn't safe for them, but that's how this stuff always has been, and it's how it will always continue to be. I think that is actually genius if they do it. If they actually do that, you've got an article that's about conservatives planning a universal basic income. Here. Okay. I've been saying for basic income plan. I've been saying for years. Years and years and years and years. This it right here, bud? I've been saying for years and years and years and years that it is in the conservatives' best interest to run on basic income. And if we were to see a basic income, it would, if we were to see the conservatives move towards a basic income, that basically ensures its passage by the liberals, likely, because the liberals are the ones that are going to want to control it. The liberals are the ones that are going to want to control its rollout and how it works, right? And as I said this earlier before you got here, but like, it's, to me, a basic income is an inevitability because the capitalists are out of ideas. Was Jeffrey Epstein the first to get the vaccine? What? It's like that's such a like. How do those go together? I don't get it at all. Yeah, I mean, the conservatives absolutely should. The problem that the conservatives face is that the party itself is against it, right? So it doesn't matter if O'Toole looks at the issue and is like, oh yeah, this would actually like go a long way. We could actually make a lot of gains. The party itself is against it, and not in small numbers. It's not like a 50-50 split. Like it's more like a 60-40 split. So like when you compare that to the Liberals and the NDP, who are like 90-10, like they're both like super in favor of a basic income. I keep saying that if the NDP don't run on a basic income, then we can pretty much say that they've been bought by capitalists. Like that Jagmeet Singh's political career should end. Like, if he doesn't run on a basic income, his political career should end. He's not even a liberal if he's not going to run on a basic income. Residential schools operated from the 1800s to 1996. Justin Trudeau's father was prime minister through much of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. No wonder the prime minister, famous for ethics violations, refused to commit to serious action or investigation. Yeah, he'd be literally digging into his own father's legacy. Tom Myers said it's okay to not wear masks if you get the bong hit transplant. Dude, you're wild, man. What's happening? Like, what's happening over there? You're just saying, like, some wild stuff. Jagmeet Singh has actually been on point regarding this story, this residential school story.
Have any message for those individuals?
I'm sorry.
We get it, bud. We do.
We're going to fight for justice for you.
Thank you.
I genuinely think that Jagmeet Singh has a real shot at this because he's a real person, right? Like, yes, he's a politician. He understands, like, he's got to do shtick, like the AOC, Among Us kind of thing. But he's showing Canadians always that there are some things he won't compromise on. He's made clear decisions in his life that he is going to stand up and defend, right? He's wearing that turban. He knows that that's a big setback for him. He's well aware that that's a big setback for him politically here in Canada. He knows. But I think there's enough people who are just like, but he's a person. Like, that's genuine. That's who he is. Like, that's a genuine thing that we can't fault him for. And more people, I think, are coming off the turban, and more people are seeing him. So POC as prime minister? The country isn't there. Who's POC? Am I missing something? I'm probably missing something. And when I say, like, he's got a shot, I mean he's got a shot at getting, like, a minority. Like, I don't think that Jagmeet Singh is going to be like a majority seizer of power or any of that kind of stuff. But they could hit minority territory. It could happen, right? People are super exhausted. Oh yeah, person of color. Yeah. I don't know though. I see, to me with Jagmeet Singh, the thing I observed was that it wasn't the fact that he's a person of color. It wasn't the fact that he has this big beard. It really was the turban. Like, the turban was just the bridge too far, I think, for Canadians. That in that last election, they were just like, I don't know about that. That seems, that's a bit too much. But now, after we've gone through this ridiculous pandemic bullshit and, like, the whole world has exploded and everything's, like, more nonsensy, I think people are willing to to take the plunge. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. No, that's true. No, you're right about that, Samir. Right? But I mean, you're driving in a conservative country, right? Like, of course. Which is why I say they have a chance to get into minority territory. Oh yeah, Todd Smith. What a jerk this guy is. The Ontario Autism Coalition put up a billboard in Belleville targeting Minister Todd Smith. The Ontario Autism Program was destroyed over 2 years ago, and there are over 40,000 children waiting for services. Oh yeah, I can't believe I forgot about this. Holy cow, yeah, I can't believe I forgot about this. I gotta save this. Yeah, right at the beginning. One of the first things that Doug Ford did was assault special needs kids with autism, right? It was like the first thing he did. Not the first thing. I think destroying the basic income program was the first thing he did. But like, right away, they were going after autistic kids. And like, when they got interviewed about it, it was weird. The interviews that Ford was having, it was really, really obvious that it was just like, get rid of these guys. How much longer do I think the pandemic will last? Completely depends. Completely depends. One of the things I always like to remind people is that we are in uncharted territory now. That the last time there was a pandemic in the United States and Canada, they got through the second wave, and some places started to actually track the third wave going up, and they literally just stopped keeping track. They literally just stopped keeping track of it and stopped taking numbers, and they just moved on, right? Just they let whoever die. They let whatever happen, and they just stopped tracking it. So we are in pretty deep uncharted territory, and a lot of it comes down to like a lot of questions, right? Like, will the vaccine actually be efficacious? Will there be variants? How fast will the variants spread? Because like, nobody's getting vaccinated in India. Like, certainly not enough people are being vaccinated in India. That's just not happening. And so a variant could come out of there very easily that could just sidestep the vaccine. That's definitely on the cards. That could definitely happen. My gut feeling, like how I generally sort of think it's going to go, is that September will roll around. Like, we'll have a pretty quiet summer, like we did between the first wave and the second wave. We'll have a pretty quiet summer. This will lull everybody into a false sense of security. They'll reopen the schools. Everybody will start acting like everything's normal again. Cases will start to pick up again. And then the capitalist system will refuse to shut back down over Christmas, which is what happened in the second wave, if you'll recall, right? Capitalism will not shut down over Christmas. They need Christmas. They need Christmas. If capitalists missed a single Christmas, it would be the end of the capitalist system. So, and then we'd be back in that loop, right? So we could be in this perpetually and forever, honestly. Like, this could just be the new normal. Yeah, wasn't that Trump's plan? Stop counting the cases, will disappear. Exactly. You know, they'll just magically disappear, right? Just stop counting. Premier Doug Ford leaning strongly against reopening schools to in-class learning. Yeah, and honestly, I got to tell you, I think that's the right decision, right? Like, there's only a month left in the school year, for goodness sakes, right? Like, it's not like there's like it's not like it's September. It's not like we're deciding this thing in September, right? I think this is the right decision. Just kind of call it a wash. The idea that we're going to send kids back to school now, it's June 1st. Like, it's June 1st. It's going to take them like 2 weeks to get used to the fact that they're even at school again, right? And then what? You're going to jam like a year of schooling or 6 months of schooling into 2 weeks? And like, everybody knows that the last week of school is total bullshit. Like, nobody does anything in the last week of school. So like, it's going to actually be like 1 week of schooling? Nah. He's making the right decision here. Which makes me feel dirty to say. Doesn't it make you feel dirty that like, oh, Doug Ford is doing something reasonable and rational? And like, you kind of like gotta cross yourself, throw some salt over your shoulder, right? Light some sage or something. Yeah, Canada's embarrassing climate record is worse of G7 nations. Yeah, of course. Of course we are, right? The tar sands alone. Like, we didn't do anything about that. Oh, and it even leapt. That's great. In the last 3 years, it actually went up. That's great. Oh, what's the story? Like, where's it coming from? We've got 39 blah, 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 assuming the government implement, even if we reduce emissions of the economy to zero, blah, blah. Yeah, we're not going to do any of this, dude. Like, we're going to blow right by that. We're just going to burn ourselves to death because we need the oil. Got to get the oil. Suck up the bones of our ancestors and jam them into our infernal machines to make us superpowered and shoot rockets into space. Like, we're fucking crazy. We're just a fucking bunch of power-mad necromancers. And, like, we just can't not do it. We just can't not. Yeah. We'll have to, oil and gas production sector will have to reduce emissions to a level far below. Now, to be fair, yesterday we just watched a interesting video that thinks that electric vehicles are going to disrupt the market very quickly, right? That it won't be like a long scale, like 10, 20 year thing. It'll be like over the course of 5 years, suddenly every vehicle on the road will just be electric vehicle. Like as quickly as people went from not having cell phones to having everybody having a smartphone, right? That transition will just be like, boom, and it'll just happen. And it'll happen so quickly that like fossil fuel prices will just bottom out. The tar sands will just, what was the word he said? Stranded. Like the tar sands oil will just be stranded because it won't be able to compete with solar electricity, right? And something to it. So we'll see. Dougie fired his medical officer, or should I say he's retiring at the end of the month. Yeah, like his medical officer was doing anything in the first place, right? Like, it didn't matter what the medical officer said. If a capitalist walks in front of Dougie and says we need this to happen, like that's what Doug Ford's pandemic has looked like completely. It has been about how do we negotiate with the populace to keep them working. That's what the whole pandemic has been about from Doug Ford's perspective. How do we keep the populace working, right? What concessions do we need to make? What like that's why everything is like come to the door and pick it up, right? Like all of that. How do we structure this thing so that we can pretend like we give a shit about this pandemic? We obviously don't. These people can die. That's fine. They're easily replaceable. But how do we keep people working, right? That's what it's always been. Well, that was in 2017, so according to this year or next. Well, and also I think that the pandemic really put he couldn't have predicted the pandemic, and I think the pandemic really kind of put a damper on a lot of that. That like it's difficult for consumers to want to make any decisions whatsoever in this sort of environment. And once the pandemic kind of finds its way out the door, at least narratively, right, the populace will get to a point where we're just sick of it and we'll just literally be like, if I get it and die, fine, I don't give a shit. Let me just live my life. And if it's really like it could be the case that we'll come out of this pandemic and people will start making kind of decisions and they'll look around and be like, oh shit, there's like a whole bunch of new stuff. It is kind of like our whole society is going to have gone to sleep for like 2 years, 3 years maybe, and then wake up. And like that 3 years of technological growth didn't stop, right? They didn't stop doing it. And so suddenly consumers are going to be like waking up in a completely new market and things are going to be completely different, right? Like, and this will just kind of fade away as if it was just some horrible nightmare that we all went through. And we'll likely learn nothing and we'll keep abandoning the poor. As we do. Yeah. Residential schools are not a footnote in Canada's history. They are its past and present. That's exactly what I was saying before, right? That like we've always been fascists. Like we're just kind of coming to terms with it as the people who are currently alive today. and kind of coming to terms with the reality that we're still fascists. Like that's our national identity. We've always been that. Yeah, NDP joins calls for Liberals to overturn CRTC internet price decision. This was so obviously like a bribe. Like, this is so obviously like Robellis going to the CRTC and being like, hey, it'd be great if you got rid of this legislation that made things more affordable for Canadians. Like, it's so obviously what's going on. So good for the NDP to actually like talk about this. I should open that up because I'd like to talk about that. That's video quality stuff. I need to talk about that. What a bunch of horseshit that is, eh? Fucking, we have the highest wireless prices in the world. We've got the highest wireless prices in the world, and our regulator can't even get the most meager of things to stick, right? Like, just total nonsense. Total nonsense. It's cathartic. Are you manager tonight? I'm a mid. Do I need to come in at 5? I don't think there needs to be 2 takeout tonight, and I have Doug. See you at your appointment, thanks. No, I don't care to decipher any of that. Oh, I can tell the sunburn is getting into my brain, guys. I can tell. It's just like, it's getting there. Sir John A. Macdonald statue quickly removed after Charlottetown Council decision. Cool. They decided to get rid of their John A. Macdonald statue, and they did it. Perfect. Let's keep that up. Let's keep that up. CFIB urges Ford government to immediately open restaurant, gyms, and retail. Who's the CFIB? Who's the CFIB? The Canadian... Oh, of course, oh, yeah, okay. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Yeah, that's great. Good for you guys. Thanks. Oh, yeah, a bunch of workers will die, but that's fine. We'll replace them. Yeah, this is actually, like, really, really correct. Like, once you decipher the semantic meaning, like, this is basically what it is. Right? Conservative MPs sponsored petition from anti-LG... Oh, I already called this. This horrible, horrible piece of shit bill. Like, this kind of thing alone, right? Like, you have a conservative MP who sponsors a petition from an anti-LGBTQ pastor who is calling for civil disobedience to oppose conversion therapy ban. This guy should no longer be a conservative MP. Flat. Should not be part of the Conservative Party. Shouldn't be part of the political system. Really. Oh, and the CRTC head is from TELUS? This is exactly what I talk about, why it's dangerous to have even a single billionaire, right? I talk about this all the time, that it's so dangerous to have even a single billionaire because you don't need to actually actively bribe people, right? You don't need to like make it as clumsy as like, here's $10,000 or here's $100,000. Well, we can't help but notice that there was a transfer of money from billionaire to a CRTC head account, right? Like, it really is, if there's a billionaire in the society, he literally just needs to walk around and be like, hey, here's my business card. Call me if you have a problem. Do you want a billionaire as a friend? Everyone's going to say yes. Like, everyone's going to say yes. That, like, a billionaire, like, you can put in whatever law you want, right? You can put in whatever law you want. You can never create a law that says, I'm allowed to take people to dinner, though, right? You can't create a law that says I'm not allowed to take people out for dinner and like a show, right? It's on my dime, that's fine, right? That's completely normal. And just because I used my private jet to go to Italy to do a live performance where we were the only people in the theater and the food all had like gold sparkled in it and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't matter, right? Right? Like, it's absolutely... Ian Scott, the head of CRTC, was a lobbyist for TELUS. Right? Like, you see how incestuous it all is? You see how it's all like that the private sector and the public sector are actually like merged? And that merger is the definition of fascism? Like, Why is the government bribing the people to take the vaccine? Are they? Are they bribing people to take the vaccine? First I've heard of it. Give me a bribe. Where can I get the bribe? Can I get bribed to take? I haven't taken the vaccine yet. Can I get a bribe? Pay me to take the vaccine if it's not mandatory to take it. Like, part of the issue that I think the government's facing with making it mandatory is I think that they would have a minor insurrection on their hands, right? And they just don't want to put up with it. And so they're probably leaning on and going, oh yeah, in the USA, for sure, bro. They're 100% for sure, bro. They're for sure, like, there's like an anti-vax movement in the United States where they're like, Bill Gates is putting nanobots in my blood. I'm gonna text my brother on it on this friggin' phone that obviously has shit in it. Like, come on. And so, like, if you can't, and all of these anti-vaxxers are also the ones that are heavily armed. So if you tried to make it mandatory, you'd probably have like a minor insurrection on your hands, right? The same guys that like actually did the insurrection on January 6th are the same guys who are like, I'm not gonna let you put mercury in my blood, whiskey. and it's an anti-dem movement. Yeah, there's that too. And so I can see how they would think to themselves, well, you know what, idiots like bribery. Just bribe them, and many of them will do it just because they're poor and they're dumb. Like, just put the mercury in your blood, I'll give you. How much are they giving them? Like $50? Is that how much they're giving them? I bet it's like $50 to $100. Privatization of Russian Post begins. Farewell to the credibility of the Russian Post. Stephen Leakey said COVID-19 wasn't spreading in schools. Internal documents show Ontario's education ministry did not know if this was true. Yeah. Like, these guys are a bunch of friggin' idiots, right? Well, they're not idiots. They just don't care about human life. Like, they're death cultists, right? They're death cultists. I had a period of time about a month back where I was using the phrase death cultist a lot, and then I kind of stopped using it. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to start calling these guys what they are. They're death cultists. They're obviously death cultists. They're obviously in a death cult. One bribe was $1,000? Bribe me, please. Bribe me. I could use that. Let's go. Needle. $1,000 please. Your shelter is offering TTC tokens, cigarettes, and gift cards if they take the vaccine. Whew. Hello, an ENFP. An ENFP. I don't think I've seen you here before. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Oh, you know who's shady AF? Look up Harper's former lawyer, Robert Stately, and his kid who worked in the PMO during the scandal. See what boards they're on now. Oh yeah, classic. No, that's a classic though. Like, there's that this has become so common. I'm gonna look it up though. Robert Stately. On what board? Robert W. Stately. Bennett Jones. Although I probably, if I just delete this and actually get the wiki. That him right there? Oh, biography. Here you go. Here you go. Robert Stately is chair of the Shareholder Activism in Critical Situations Practice Group. His practice focuses on complex securities litigation, securities regulation and enforcement, shareholder activism, and securities class action. Rob regularly advises boards of directors, audits, committees, and specials committees in connection with internal and regulatory investigations and in managing litigious transactions. Rob is recognized by Lexpert, Chambers and Partners, the Legal 500, Benchmark, and many more as a leading lawyer in dispute resolution. In 2014, 15, and 17, Benchmark Canada conferred on Rob's Benchmarks Award as Canada's Securities Litigator of the Year. Peer-reviewed publications have recognized Rob as a brilliant lawyer. He's a real strategist, has the ability to see the big picture, and does a superb job, ... in court. For his skilled handling of complex cases, as absolutely first-rate at examining and cross-examining witnesses, for his excellent courtroom presence, his ability to provide practical and concise advice, and as a masterful strategic thinker. Jesus Christ. A masterful strategic thinker. Who the fuck put that here? A masterful strategic thinker. Jesus. Like... And they would buy kids a donut and food and cars for adults. Yeah, let's go. Let's go, dude. Just do it. Just do what you got to do. You know, just do what you got to do. When it comes to this vaccine, like just friggin' do what you got to do. They should pay for 1 year of college tuition, or just make those things free. Just make college tuition free. Same with rent. Just make those things free. Do you think they can bring out the vaccine passport in Canada? I genuinely don't know enough about vaccine passports to comment on it. I don't think I know enough about the subject to make a decent comment on that particular. When anarchists and trots and sockdems, etc. Oh yeah, okay. Call Marxist-Leninists, Marxists, and tankies red fascists and Nazis, they're saying it's okay to kill them. This is too weaving. There's too much. Do I want to dive into this? Oh, thank goodness. The source saved me. The source saved me, you guys. The page is bad. Ah, dang it. No, it's bad. I mean, yeah, I genuinely don't know enough about it. I just don't. Like, is it that, like, we get a little stamp if we say we've been vaccinated, and if we don't get stamped, we can't travel? Is that what it is? I mean, how is that much different than a passport? Like, I just think that if you're okay with a passport in the first place, then you're probably okay with a vaccination passport. But if you are not okay with passports, generally, then you're probably against a vaccination passport as well. And then if you're also against vaccination generally, you're probably against vaccination passport. So in the end, I think I would probably land on, like, this is just how things are done. And, like, there are far more sinister things in the world. And, like, they already know everything about us. Like, why does anybody pretend like there's still privacy? Like, that's just so not true at all. We have social security numbers, for God's sakes. It has your medical record? Okay. Like, they have our medical records. Like, yeah, we had no excuse to not know about the graves. We just didn't look, right? That's really what it is. We just didn't look. Like, we just weren't interested in looking at it. Look at this stuff. O'Toole wants an investigation of Winnipeg virus labs ties to China. As much shade as they can throw on China, eh? It drives me crazy that the Chinese the lab leak theory has gained traction again in the discourse when there's no new evidence. Look, there's no new evidence. It's just become in vogue again to speculate about whether or not the virus got leaked from a Chinese lab. And you look at any credible source and they're like, the chances of it being a lab leak are so small in the first place. Like, they're so small that, like, does it bear investigation? I guess. Like, it's a thread that you can pull, I suppose. But, like, it's the least likely thing. It's far more likely that it was a transmission from an animal. Yeah, but if you don't have it, you can't go to concerts or shooting. Yeah. I genuinely think that the people who are against something like a vaccine passport have not actually thought it through. Like, they're just not, like, it's like that. It's exactly the same as, like, Bill Gates is putting nanobots in our blood, and they'll track us that way. And literally, like, they'll type this out on a cell phone that they're carrying around that has technology in it that tracks you. Like, this thing tracks you. If you don't think this thing is tracking you, you are duping yourself. And so, like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, okay. That's just my plug-in on my phone. That's fine. I thought, like, oh no, is my computer restarting? Oh god. Blame China, or people may look at their own government's failings. Yep, I think you're completely right, Ruth. I think it's completely a deflection tactic. It's completely a way for the American system to just once again not critically analyze itself, right? And that's how you get into these ridiculous situations, like this residential school stuff, where, like, we're finding, like, 215 bodies, and this takes us all the way back to what I showed right at the beginning of this whole thing, where there's this blow up between a group of First Nations people and a group of journalists, right? And the journalists are kind of just like, oh, what the hell is even happening? Because they haven't actually critically self-analyzed the situation. They don't know anything, right? And they're coming into a situation, and, like, this is going to get so much worse. Like, it's going to get so much worse because, like, America never critically analyzes itself. Like, imagine a mass shooting is happening almost daily now in the United States. Like, it's happening at such a frequent rate, right? They just don't report it. They just don't talk about it. And they're just not analyzing it. They're not doing a self-critique at all of this phenomenon. Which is like an American phenomenon. Like, there have been mass shootings in Canada and throughout Europe and in Australia and all this, but the scale of it has just gotten so outrageous. Yeah, I just don't think I need the vaccine because I am healthy, but it's not just about you, right? Like, it's about other people. And, like, my excuse is that I haven't gotten it because I'm dumb. Like, that's it. I'm just dumb. And I just haven't gotten my shit together to do it. But like, you are healthy, but a healthy person can still have coronavirus and still give it to somebody else, right? And because of that transmission, I do think it's important that people actually get vaccinated. And again, it's your own thing, and I don't think less of anybody. Everybody has their own thing on it. But I mean, I'm going to go get it. I've just been holding off because, like, I held off for a long time because I'm pretty low risk, and I know that there's lots of people who haven't been vaccinated, like Ruth. Any word on that, by the way, Ruth? Any word on that? And but, like, now it's just laziness. Like, now it's just dumbness and laziness on my part. But I'm just like, I can't get my shit together to actually go down. Yeah, there is that too, Robin, isn't there? That's why when I leave the resident, I get, like, super scorching burnt. Like, I leave my house and I'm just like, what's... The moon is on fire! Right? Like, that kind of thing. I can't take credit for that joke. I saw that when I was young, and it's always stuck with me. I love that joke. Americans get 2 days off per year to celebrate war, but 0 days off per year to vote. Yep. Dominatrix offers her subs new punishment that replicates pain, humiliation of being a Leafs fan. I went to school with this guy who ends up actually becoming a successful actor on a successful Canadian TV show. I won't out him, but and he posts on his Instagram because he's a huge Leafs fan, and they lost, and he's like, oh, and I'm just like texting him, being like, oh yeah, however will you survive the loss of your Leafs with your rugged, handsome face and successful television career, dick. And he always posts back like a smiley face or something. He's a good guy. Toronto Star's columnist's homeless cosplay experiment is journalistic malpractice? What the hell? I love Canada Land, by the way. Canada Land, if there is actual journalism happening in Canada, it's coming out of Canada Land. These guys are on it. And they do like great stories like this. So that guys like me can turn around and do a YouTube channel. You're like, hey, Toronto Star's columnist homeless goes undercover to become a poverty tourist, during which she pretended to be an unhoused person, infiltrated an encampment. In the piece, characterizes an individual who shows all the signs of needing a fix as a menacing presence. Oh yeah, mocks an art gallery set up by Res. So a Karen goes undercover in order to belittle the people who are dealing with the systemic poverty that they're experiencing. Yeah. A writer whose greatest hits include using the term N-word in jest, outing a sex worker, which is dangerous to do, ahead of her good character hearing before the Law Society of Ontario, and most recently calling the Star's appointment of columnist Shri Paredkar as an internal ombud, an appointment meant to allow journalists working for the Star to share editorial concerns they might not be able to be comfortable expressing to their direct manager. Like, this is kind of gross. This person's just kind of gross. Yeah, this is really gross. Like, this lady went in undercover in order to, like, mock people who are in crisis. Like, that's the thing that's gross about this story, right? Like, if you're talking to a person who lives in a tent city, they are in crisis, right? It's not that much different from, like, going up to a drowning person and, like, acting like you're helping them by shouting, swim harder, right? And then if they drown, you go, idiot, should have swam harder. And then you drive away in your boat. And also, I do give blood, and if I get it, I won't be able to give blood. Oh, is that true? You get the vaccine, you can't give blood? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Googling Staley's son, Stephen works as Harper's executive assistant. That's real specific, but I'm going to do it. Pull this over here. Is that it? It doesn't. This is. Oh yeah, people really lost their minds about this Duffy scandal, and I was always just like, this is really low. This is like low scale stuff. Like this is not even close to. But this is how politics works in Canada. That in Canada, when actual news comes up and serious crisis and serious things, the media starts chirping about something that's almost completely irrelevant, right? Like, the Jacobin releases an article, a very thorough article, which you can find easily, about the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, and that's the same month that everybody loses their mind about Bill C-10, which is like the most like vanilla, irrelevant, who gives a crap bill that's ever come down the pipe in the history of anything. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's the end of your civil rights on the internet. And I'm like, if you think that, like, no. No. Yeah, the National Post exists as a, the National Post is total crap. Like, it's like a far right, and Rex Murphy has lost his damn mind. Like, he's senile, right? Like, he's obviously senile. I saw a brilliant juxtaposition, and I did take a screenshot of it. I don't know if I'll dig around for it and try and find it, but it was the National Post reporting on the 215 kids story, and right beside it was a Rex Murphy opinion piece. And I really was like, dang it. It wasn't one of the Rex Murphy opinion pieces where he denies the existence of systemic racism. That would have made it like crystal. That would have made it just like, so perfect, right? To report on this genocide and the revelation of this mass grave right beside a guy who's like, there's no systemic racism in Canada. That doesn't exist. That would have made it absolutely perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Like the PPC, like for sure. I knew a lady, dude. I knew a lady, like a manager I used to have. I'm like working at my location, and she's the manager of a different location. I'm working at my location, and then she comes in on her off times, and she's wearing a bunch of PPC stuff. And me and my manager, like when she leaves, we just kind of look at each other, and he's like, "Good for you for not bringing it up." And I was like, "I'm not gonna bring that shit up. I'm not gonna talk. I don't want to talk to PPC people, dude. If I find out that somebody's PPC, I'm literally like, oh, and I walk away. I'm not interested. You're not gonna change their mind. You're not gonna fix it. The best you can do is just like, and if you really want, you can just be like, PPC, you're a dick, and leave. But that's the best that you're ever gonna get. Scores of angry white men dead after Edmonton CFL team renamed Elks. Kenny orders truck nuts across province to be half swung. I don't know if I fully understand this, but I appreciate the effort. Yeah, as of today, it's harder to qualify for a mortgage in Canada, right? Like, the housing market's getting bought. It's getting bought by wealthy billionaires who speculate on the market and who, this whole market speculation narrative, right? Like, and that's starting to become more obvious. Like, people are starting to say more aggressively that, like, oh, there's too many, like, it used to be called foreign buyers, but now it is steadily becoming like, no, there's billionaires. There's billionaires buying up the market. We all know it's true, right? But now, in my view, the narrative is, no, they're not buying these properties to speculate on a market, right? They're not market speculators. They're buying the property because once the economy collapses, as it's destined to do, one of the only commodities that will be worth anything is land. So they don't give a shit about the house. They don't give a shit about any of that, right? They want the land. And they're not speculating on it. They're not doing market speculation in order to think about turning around and reselling it. They want the land because once the economy collapses, it'll be the only thing that actually has value. Yeah. It's that special morning where we watch companies that operate sweatshops and foreign dictatorships that throw gay people in prisons or from the tops of buildings, rainbow up their profile pics and pretend they're allies. Green Party rift over Israel-Palestinian conflicts grows as MPs break from leader. Yeah, if I recall correctly, Annamie Paul is actually pro-Israel. And this is the type of thing... in a Twitter post, she said, a statement from Paul calling for de-escalation and a return to dialogue was totally inadequate. Yeah, that's what it is. Like... there's a lot of there's like a green, there's a socialist revolution happening within the Green Party that seems somewhat inevitable. Like the Greens managed to get in Annamie Paul, and Annamie Paul seems to be like she's pro-capitalist for sure. Like I don't think that she is anti-capitalist. I think that she sees capitalism as a method to reform. I think she sees that we can reform the system. Whereas, like, no. Like, we're not going to reform the system. And that's going to get really obvious. Sooner than we'd like, I think. Canadian home prices make the 2006 U.S. real estate bubble look like a deal. Yeah, like, they're reporting that Toronto, Hamilton, and Vancouver are, like, the 3 most expensive cities to live in. More expensive than New York, more expensive than San Francisco, more expensive than Los Angeles. Yeah. Yeah, people really miss their racist team sports names. Yeah, it's weird, eh? Like, what a weird... Like, imagine being like the Vancouver Black Guys, right? Like, what? Or like the like Edmonton Eskimos, I guess. Damn it. I'm trying to like make up names. Or like the like Washington Chinese guy. Like, what? Why? It just seems really weird. Video shows SUV driving on Toronto sidewalk? Sure. We could do that for 20 seconds. Look at this douche. Look at this douche canoe right here. What is happening? What is happening? What kind of decision making are you doing in your life? How did you even end up there, dude? What happened here? So we just get this footage, so we don't get to see the entry point. The entry point is gonna tell us the most. Nah, like, is this guy doing this for fun? There's gotta be a pregnant lady in that car, right? That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna decide right now that this person is not an idiot or a jerk, but they're a person in crisis, right? And what's a crisis that I think we could all get behind and be like, oh dang, there is a lady giving birth in that vehicle. She's like got her legs up on the dash and she's shouting like, get me to the hospital. And he's just like, I gotta get her to the hospital. I gotta get on the sidewalk. Oh, like, right? Like that, there's a movie scene that I could, that is, first of all, A, very watchable. B, I feel like I acted it pretty well, you guys. Like, that's Oscar worthy, I think. And also it makes me really empathize with him and makes me believe that, you know what? So what, he ended up on the sidewalk for a minute. That pregnant lady's got to get to the hospital. There's a crisis going on. He can't be slowed down by anything. What a hero! Thank you, Robin. What a hero. You're probably more accurate, Ruth. He's escaping from his drug dealer. That could also be a fun like romp, right? That could be a buddy comedy, right? Oh, did this actually happen? The Edmonton football team rebranded to the Edmonton Elks? Is that real? Fantastic. Fantastic. All it took was finding 250 children in a mass grave. Yep, that's all it took. Progress from white people. Nothing says I love you like cheap crap made in China by slave labor sold by a company owned by billionaires benefiting from corporate welfare, paying slave wages to employees kept from enjoying Thanksgiving with their family. Yeah. I don't celebrate Christmas. I've been a retailer for too long. I've seen too much. Like, I don't celebrate it. Like, other people celebrate it and I show up at their stuff, but I don't bring presents. Like, none of that. And I don't expect them to give me presents. Like, and I've made that very clear, and everybody I know has made peace with it. Because it's just like, it's not, first of all, like, I work in retail. It's not a holiday. Like, I don't get time off. Like, it's like my busiest season. Right? Like, so in no way is it a holiday for me. And then on top of that, like, stuff like this, I'm just like, yeah, like, how is this, in what way is this a holiday? Explain it to me. Like, you feel free to talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like, explain to me in any way how this is a holiday. Oh, they announced it last summer during the George Floyd march. Oh, okay. Okay, good. You know what? I'm with you, Wigwith. You got me. You sold me. Good on the Elks, you know? And honestly, I know I was like making fun and all that kind of stuff, but it is like at this stage in the game, progress is progress, right? Like anything counts. Anything counts. That's how low the bar is. That like literally I'm just like, oh, thank God they banned straws. Oh, thank God they renamed a football team. Like anything at all, please. I mean, oh, Christmas is in the Bible, is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the day that Jesus was born. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I wager that most of the people who are like actively celebrating Christmas probably don't read that Bible. They probably read that chapter on Christmas, and that's probably about it. Pineapple Express. Exactly, Jeff. You know what's up. You know what's up. I used to work Christmas Eve and Boxing Day because my holiday is usually earlier in the month. Can't say no to time and a half. right? And some places will pay you like double time. Yeah, there's that, Samir. Like it's that they kind of pinned it more to April, right? No, it's placed there completely because what the Christians did is they went around and co-opted everybody else's holidays, right? And they were like sneaky about it. They did like lots of cool, and I shouldn't say sneaky as like nefarious, even though sometimes they were, but sometimes it was like, oh hey, you have a story about a guy who slays a dragon. Well, did you know that George the Dragon Slayer is actually a Christian saint? Did you know that? They do that kind of stuff all the time, where they like walk into a region. Like they tried to do it with Halloween, that there is like a Christian holiday that's like right on the same day as Halloween, but it's lame. It's so lame. Literally, it's stay home and light candles. It's just like, so wait. Dress up in amazing costumes, go out, party in the streets, get free candy, versus stay inside, light some candles. Like, I'm a pretty big introvert. I like to stay indoors, but no, I'm going to go out and have fun at the costume party. Thank you very much. Now there is even more talk of changing all the names of places around Edmonton based on racist people with troubling pasts. Yeah, let's do it. What we should do is we should find sweet old ladies and name everything after them. Just like a nice lady who, what she does is makes apple pies for people. That's all she does. She makes apple pies. Just be like, all right, this will be Betty Rose Avenue, right? I'd be totally down for that. And that is generally how things like that go, Wigwith. That like once one thing happens, like once one thing gets passed legislatively, it cascades because people saw it happen. They saw the process and they're like, oh, we could expedite this. Come on, you can do this much faster than this. We know you can. That's how he felt during Hanukkah versus Christmas lights. Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying with that. Like, you've got your menorah and you light your menorah versus the guy next door, his whole house is just like completely lit up. He's got like a moving Santa Claus, and he's also got something where you like hit a button and it plays like Beethoven's Seventh and all the lights blink in time. That's not Beethoven's Seventh, but you know what I'm talking about. I like calling places by their treaty names. Oh yeah. I need to learn more about why they announce that all the time. Like why they announce like we are on this land, like the treaty land. They're doing that as a way of truth and reconciliation, of attempting to build into the conversation that there's a history here and that we are on land that was very shortly ago not ours. Deepfakes, man. Deepfakes are grotesque. Like, it's too much. We haven't been hit by a politician who's attempted to use a deepfake on us. Or, like, the CIA hasn't done it yet, where they're using deepfakes yet. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. They're gonna try. Yeah. The United States is 3 pirates and oil companies and banks in a trench coat pretending to be a nation. Yeah. It's for sure the truth. Educated-ish guess, the government didn't expect cases to drop so fast. They have no idea what to do next. Yeah, that's probably true. I think they're probably, given how badly they botched the third wave and how much people are shitting on them over it still, they're going to stay the course. They're for sure going to stay the course. They don't want to get pegged with another botch. Like, you know, they want power. They want to stay in power. Yeah.
Against Israeli colonialism.
Oh, you know what I didn't do today? I didn't do that. Let's do that. I use Al Jazeera when it comes to Israel-Palestine. Yeah, they're already off of it, though. Fear barrier broken despite hundreds of arrests in Jerusalem. What's really great? Northern Ethiopia, yeah, geez Louise. Always some crazy nonsense going on in the world, man. And the I do think that I'm really hoping that to see polls showing how true this actually is, about what public opinion is on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I haven't seen any polls yet, but for sure they've got to be polling for that. It's like a major world event. There were major protests, several major protests in every city. What is that HK article? Which Hong Kong activists struggle to keep flame of democracy alive. Territory civil society under unprecedented pressure, but activists say they will not give up the struggle. Human Rights Front has mobilized some of Hong Kong's biggest police-permitted marches, but now it's being accused of authorities of operating illegally. The student union is being evicted by the administration. At the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, which of course I've got to reference, Hong Kong has long been home to vibrant and voracious civil society. Now, it's important to remember when you're reading articles like this that organizations like the Civil Human Rights Front can be co-opted by Westerners, right? And it's like completely irrational for China to defend itself against co-option from Westerners, right? That if anything to open Google Maps. Anything to open Google Maps. Google Maps, I love the Google Maps. Anything to open Google Maps. So, Hong Kong. Like, the United States wants a reason to get into the South China Sea. Like, there's just no two ways about it. Anybody who is under the belief that America wants to leave the South China Sea alone, I think is just completely fooling themselves. They absolutely want to get like 1 million carriers right in the South China Sea because China does $5 trillion worth of trade in the South China Sea. It's a major part of China's trade and trade policy. And so if the United States can interrupt this, what would be a perfect way to interrupt it? An independence movement, civil war in Hong Kong, right? Any excuse whatsoever, right, to get to the South China Sea, right? That'd be a great excuse to get into Hong Kong, right? To prevent trade from happening, to make sure that no trade can actually come from Fuzhou or Taizu, right? Like, just don't let any kind of trade come out of Hong Kong or anything like that. Stop $5 trillion of trade coming out of China. Yeah, they're interested. So when I read articles like this, I always I feel like I've seen the Civil Rights Front. I feel like the Civil Rights Front. Have I done any research on this? Like, I'm always suspicious of this kind of stuff because a lot of times you start to dig into this kind of stuff and you realize that it's actually a CIA-funded organization. Oh, here you go. In March 2021, the Democratic Party and the Teachers Union withdrew from the front. Convener Figo Shan confirmed this but did not explain further. Also in the same month, a Singaporean newspaper quoted officials from the Hong Kong government saying that the front was funded by the U.S. agency National Endowment for Democracy. The National Endowment for Democracy is straight up a CIA organization, right? So the National Endowment for Democracy has funded, according to the Hong Kong government, has funded the Civil Human Rights Front, right? To push forward for an independence movement, which an independence movement in Hong Kong, if Hong Kong suddenly declared itself independent, that makes it completely reliant on Westerners. It makes it a Western state, for sure, right? In the free market, right? Because if it's not allied to China, well, then who is it allied with? Well, the United States and Europe, right? Like the Western banking system, right? And so it makes complete sense that a CIA-funded organization like the Civil Human Rights Front, right, is now being accused of operating illegally. Why? Because it's operating as a front for the CIA. So that's generally where I land on that. Like I understand that like it is more dense than that. But as soon as you involve the CIA, like and I really do mean this, like if I read a document that's like this big, that has like this many pages, and at the bottom of like the last page, I find out that there was any CIA involvement whatsoever, it makes the entire document not credible. I have zero faith in the CIA. I have zero. They exist to lie to us. That's the role of the CIA. So, a good pick. I don't mind talking about Hong Kong, and it's really, I love talking about China. I love talking about China because it's super fascinating. China's a fascinating place. And Western propaganda against China has been really interesting. Really fascinating to delve deep into that. So, anytime anybody wants to hit me with any of the kind of conspiracy stuff surrounding China, believe me, I will go deep. Probably deeper than you like. I am indigenous Chippewa, Loon Clan. Oh, any excuse. Check it. Check this out. I learned this when I was 11. Damn it. Come on. You're embarrassing me, Hands. Right? I'm a loon. If you live in Canada, you are a treaty person, so it's important for Canadians to learn the treaties and uphold them. That's what gives them permission to be here. Yeah, exactly. No, and I mean, what white culture is so shitty about treaties, right? Literally, people will say, "Oh, well, those treaties were signed forever ago," and it's like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. Like, I don't care. They were signed forever ago, and they've stood. They've stood for that period of time. If you would like to renegotiate the treaties, you may, but you simply can't act as though the treaties never happened because they happened a while ago, right? Like, we're such assholes. I've been trying to find some domestic opinion polling about it, but I doubt anyone's have done it because of what the results will likely show. Well, and also it takes a little while, Samir. That's all. I bet you anything. You know what? Let's Israel, Palestine, Canada poll. Here you go. I just didn't do a Google search. Oh, we're delighted to release the results of Canada-wide survey. It co-responded with Independent Jewish Voices Canada and the United Nations for Justice and Peace in Palestine, Israel. When was this released? June 16th, so about a year ago. So, okay, that's interesting. So about a year ago, strong majority of Canadians want the ICC to investigate alleged war crimes whenever they occur, including Israel. Yes. Yes. So straight up, like, check it out. Like, this blue here represents yes, and then the light blue is yes of officials. And so most people, like, it's almost 100%. So it's like people are kind of on board with that. Interesting. Hey Dave, how you doing, bud? I won't dive too deep in this. Maybe I'll do a video about this. Although this is about a year old, so it would be nice if, yeah. So they are doing these surveys, right? But then, like, you take a look, like, as, 2002, 79% of Canadians said we should not pick sides, right? And so, anyway, won't spend too much more time on that. What am I missing? What am I missing? Benjamin Netanyahu might be dethroned. You're right about that. He might actually be like, his own crimes might finally hang him, right? We'll see. They've got an election coming up, so, or do they have an election coming up? Yeah, China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Good for you for using the actual thing instead of just saying North Korea. Are really interesting. Yeah, they are really interesting. They are really interesting. I feel like once you penetrate the propaganda surrounding North Korea, the place becomes a little bit less insane, right? Like, we have a real kind of insane view of North Korea, in my view. And once you actually, like, accept it for what it is, you can kind of see, like, oh, it's not that batty. Like, it's not that nutty. I hope things work out between these two crazy kids. Yeah, most conservatives don't know anything about them, and then I asked police officers, and they say there is no treaties. Oh yeah, brilliant. So just by that, I can tell how uneducated or corrupt they are. Yeah, like, our education system is not geared to educate people, right? It's geared to indoctrinate them into capital. That's what it is. So why would you teach them? Like, we don't learn what capitalism is in school. We don't learn how the system actually works, right? We don't learn how our education system actually works. And we don't learn what our laws are, and we certainly don't learn about treaties, right? That's something that we could easily teach. Like, from grade 10, 11, 12 are a complete waste of time. We're literally, like, studying, like, books by long dead authors like Thomas Hardy, right? Like, literally, we have English professors being like, well, now, pay attention to how he uses red here. Red is very symbolic in Thomas Hardy. Who the fuck cares? We literally could spend all of that time doing any kind of research on anything that matters in our society, like treaty rights, right? But instead of that, oh, well, you see, we're going to be talking about Shakespeare's Hamlet for the third time. It's very important that we pay attention to Hamlet. And I have a theater degree, guys, and I'm saying, like, we should probably teach Hamlet less, right? And honestly, we shouldn't have kids reading Hamlet. It's a play. Take them to see Hamlet. Oh, it means you have to actually hire actors. Shit. Damn, a culture? You mean we have to actually have a culture? Fuck. Hey, Dave, fellow TVP. It will not make a difference. There's no left in Israel. Yeah, the Orthodox Jews do not vote. You're mainly right, Dave. Like, I do think that if they replace Netanyahu, it's not really going to have much of a fundamental difference. Like, and generally, I think, like, if suddenly there was a leftist candidate that was coming up in Israel, the United States wouldn't tolerate that. The United States performs coups on countries that, like, elect leftist leaders all the time. Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Peru, all of these, at one point or another, have elected a leftist government, and the United States has just been like, forget that, get rid of these guys. Right? So if Israel started to do it, yeah. yeah, for sure. They would send in the Marines, man. They'd send in the Marines and just take that guy out and be like, he had his finger on the nukes. He was going to nuke people. That's what he was definitely going to do. He was going to nuke people, so we had to take him out. Certainly not because he wanted to free Palestine. Certainly not because he wanted to de-escalate in the region. Yeah, he was crazy. And Americans will just be like, hey, what's crazy? I'm just eating that up. Gulp, 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 gulp. The president said it, so it has to be true. Yeah, the president said it, so it has to be true, you guys. Yeah. Fucking Americans. The opposition parties are uniting. They are bringing their proposals to the president to get approval, and Bebe won't be PM anymore. Okay, we'll see, Jeff. We'll see. It'd be a cool shift. I'm down for a change in leadership. I'm sick and tired of Netanyahu's face, honestly. Fucking dumb face. That's such a stupid. That's the reason you guys are tuning in, eh? Is for this high-level, critical, global analysis. Netanyahu's face is so stupid. What a stupid face Netanyahu has. Dish One Spoon is a treaty used in Toronto. I gotta head out. Great show. Good to see you, DJ. Thanks for coming in, bud. Always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye, Robin. We're gonna be shutting down, guys, in about 10 minutes here anyway. So thanks for coming in, guys. Always a pleasure. The West still doesn't accept the results of the 2006, I know, Palestinian elections. What a bunch of jerks. Xanatos. Frick, dude, that's not your real name, is it? That's a super cool name. Xanatos. Oh my goodness, I love it. Thanks for tuning in, bud. I wasn't able to go to the protest today, located in Oshawa. Just got vaccinated. Good for you. Arm is still killing me. Yeah, that's okay, dude. You can't make it to everything, right? I've missed protests. I remember I missed the second round of Palestinian protests because I did too many squats and my legs hurt. So, we're humans, dude. It's cool. Yeah, because it's not what they wanted. Of course, Samir. They don't want. Honestly, they just want the Palestinians to walk into the sea, right? They just want them to walk into the Mediterranean and be done with them, right? They don't want them to be around. Kiri, nice to see you. I can always rely on you, Ruth. You always get me. It's a punchable kind of face, like Trump and Ford. Oh! I've got the most punchable face. My face is the most punchable face. It's the most punchable face you've ever seen. No one's got a more punchable face than me. I've got the most punchable face in the world. You better believe it. The West did not recognize the Crimea vote either, even though the U.S. Yeah, the Crimea vote. For those of you who don't know, right? Like, the United States made a big hullabaloo over the annexation of the Crimea region, which, yeah, this is it, right? Uh-oh. So it was a region that was previously part of Ukraine, but then the Crimea region had a vote, and they actually voted to rejoin Russia. And so Russia honors the vote and moves military in. It's completely peaceful. Like, there's no... Maybe there were some shots fired, but like it wasn't like a bloodbath or anything. And they take the Crimea region over. And of course, this gets propped up as like, Moscow invading, and oh, it's the commies are coming back, and on and on and on. And meanwhile, like, the Crimeans voted for it. The UN was like, yep, they voted for it. And Moscow was like, oh, okay, cool. Nah, it isn't, but hey, it's the internet. And I got a Stalker X who doesn't know I use this name online. Ooh. Stalker X's, dude. Stalker X's. I have not had a Stalker X myself, but, like, I've known people who have had Stalker X's. It gets kind of scary. So, yeah, you stay on the DL. I won't dox you. Actually, Russia moved in and surrounded Ukraine military until the Crimeans could hold the vote. So, like, the Crimeans wanted to take the vote, but the Ukrainians weren't allowing it to happen, and so then Russia moved in so that they could actually have the vote. It just seems like a really minor dust-up. You know what I mean? Like, it does seem like a minor dust-up. Doesn't seem like it's, like... I, like, look at it, and even when I think about it from, like, the most nefarious of angles, I'm like... Meet the Crimeans. Oh, you got it, bud. I only got 5 minutes left on the stream, but... You always have, like, the best links, man. Oh, it's too long.
I won't grow up. I won't grow up. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school.
Oh, I'm always skeptical about Vice. Vice is like... They do really dirty propaganda. Their propaganda is the dirtiest. I mean, right? Like, you got people cheering.
According to the Ukrainian central authorities and the international community, this referendum is completely illegal and an act of separatism. But I think the people here in Crimea really don't care.
Можно спросить у вас, за кого вы будете голосовать? То есть за что вы будете голосовать?
За присоединение к России.
Почему?
Потому что хотим жить лучше. Все изменится в нашей жизни, мы надеемся на это.
There you go. I mean, that's about as clean as it gets, don't you think? Like, people are voting, they're having a whole thing. I just seem to remember while the Crimea thing was happening, I was like, oh, am I going to see like a big bloodbath? It's going to be a big conflagration, and it just wasn't. And so I kind of just stopped paying attention because generally speaking, if it's not like a big like hullabaloo, it usually means it's just being negotiated. So it's completely fine. Okay, guys. This is going to be the end of the channel. Not the end of the channel, sorry, the end of the stream. Nice one today, like nice conversation. Really brightened up my mood, man. I was in kind of like a funky sort of place at the start of this. You guys are all doing great out there, man. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of this. Like, share, subscribe. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow. Good luck. Not the end of the channel, Robin. Just the end of the stream. Good luck. We're going to need it.